All right, y'all, we're getting ready for another great show heading into the weekend. Guess what? First-time guest. I think he'll be all right. David Avocado Wolfe joins us on the Robert Scott Bell Show today. How cool is that?
You are listening to the Robert Scott Bell Show.
These days, it's more important than ever to know where our food and supplements come from. That's why, at Plus CBD Oil, we believe it is critical to manage every step of the supply chain process. It all starts with certified hemp seeds. Our hemp grows tall, like bamboo, and is harvested within 3 months. After harvest, the hemp is dried and sent to our CO2 extraction facility, where our raw formula is extracted. The extracted oil is then lawfully imported to our state-of-the-art in-house laboratory in San Diego, California. There, we convert our raw formula into our total plant complex and gold formula oils. Our oils are then used to formulate our award-winning Plus CBD oil product line. The products are then tested for cannabinoid content and the absence of harmful substances. But we go one step further. We then send our products to a third-party laboratory to verify concentration, quality, and safety. After that, the products have finished their journey and are ready to be shipped to your local health food store. Because at Plus CBD Oil, we believe how you do anything is how you do everything. That's why, from seed to shelf, we are committed to providing safe and effective hemp CBD products for you and your loved ones. It's our promise to you. Learn more about our commitment to full traceability at pluscbdoil.com.
The Robert Scott Bell Show.
I listen to get accurate, up-to-date information. I've learned so much from him. It is awesome. It's the best entertainment that I've found.
You rock the health world. Keep it up. I love you.
Now, the voice of health, freedom, and liberty, here's Robert Scott Bell.
Here we go. The weekend is upon us here on the Robert Scott Bell Show, or almost there, as I joke every week at this point. You got to come through the Robert Scott Bell Show to get to the weekend. Not that the weekend means much anymore, because what's a weekday? Every day it's like, wait, it's the same as the other day. The kids are not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. Of course, many of you are, in defiance of unconstitutional prohibitions on your ability to move about the Earth cabin, the American cabin, the New Jersey cabin, the Michigan cabin, the Minnesota cabin, or whatever cabin you're in, if you happen to be one. You know what I'm saying here? There are a lot of things that people are getting just a wee bit tired of. It's like, yeah, it was a novel thing to kind of shut down for a couple of weeks. And as this continues on, more and more people are feeling like, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't have gone along to begin with. And now that we have, kind of undoing what we've kind of been playing along with is a little bit more difficult, a little bit more awkward, maybe uncomfortable, but more and more critical to stand up for the rights that are yours by virtue of your very existence. Your right to life, liberty, property, your right to speak out, your right to worship, your right to assemble, your right to interact with other human beings. My gosh, this is a crazy time, isn't it? To think that we're in America, the land of freedom, right? Where government was established to limit the violations or stop the violations that had preceded in every other government on the planet. The limitations or prohibitions on the exercise of freedom of speech, freedom of the right to bear arms, freedom to worship, assemble, petition for redress of grievances, all of that. And we got to do that. We got to talk about that. Now, very excited, hour 2 today, as long as we can have him on. David Avocado Wolfe. Avo is coming on. Cool guy. Been wanting to get him on since we connected at the Truth About Cancer last event. He was talking about activated charcoal and things, but there's so much more. This guy is trained in the sciences too. So we can talk about scientism as it relates to what this, what is a virus? Is it really? Is that really the cause of all the problems? Or is it all the things that preceded it, that manifested as a, my gosh, there's something new, and it's just so bad, it's so big, it's historic in the levels of interactivity that we must shut down the planet and all the people on it. And I know y'all are feeling it. Some of you are messaging me that, you've been hanging out as long as you can, and now you've lost your job, you're furloughed, now you have to take money from the government, which is really money from the future of your children who have been numbered like beasts in the field, like cattle, if they've been given numbers. You know what I'm talking about here? To be collateral on the debt, because they can't keep printing it out and people accepting it unless there's something in the future that can kind of offset or will be indentured servants or slaves to that debt. I didn't do that to my children. They get to choose when they're of age. My son is already of age. He's like, no, not interested. So that's great. So we've got a lot of cleaning up our act to do. A lot of coming back to our true origin point, recognizing who we are in relation to a servant government, formerly servant government. And then what do we do about that? Now, there are a lot of politicians that get voted in by the people of the states, the several states, to the level of governor, right? The governor, that's the chief executive in the given state. And these governors are creating havoc in those states, many of them, most of them, because they perceive and believe that an invisible virus or entity that is not really alive, that contains fragments or contains, in this case, RNA, is so dangerous that we must abandon constitutionally limited government. Now, I'm not saying it's the first moment this has happened, because I've argued that on many levels, in the federal level, state level, and local level, the Constitution has been abandoned for any number of reasons. None of them legitimate to abandon, no, sorry. And I see a lot of memes and jokes going out there. Founding fathers said this Constitution is awesome unless there's a virus, right? People are picking up on that now, which is great. So as much as we can be bummed out about the fear porn that has agendized our governments, state, local, federal, to limit our freedom, at the same time, there's a simultaneous rise up, where you try to bring the darkness in, there's light that's going to push it out. People are gaining levels of awareness and going, wow, all those things I used to think were conspiracy theories, those people were right. That's what we're seeing manifest. So there's a lot of awareness happening too. I'm not saying in total, it's a total wake-up call, but a lot of people, by being made uncomfortable enough, begin to look outside of their narrow confines of whatever horse blinders they were wearing to see the things, the reality that you and I have been seeing for a long time. And for those of you who are new to the Robert Scott Bell Show more recently, welcome. The water's warm. It's filled with molecular hydrogen as well. So thank you all for being here. I'm glad that we could be here 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, and then some. RobertScottBell.com. All the links are up in the show notes. Let me see if the show notes have indeed been published. I'm going to do a refresh page. Super Don, is it up? Is it okay? Are we aware? Is it there?
Present and accounted for, yes.
Okay, excellent. So let me see what we got. Oh, look at that. Look at this good-looking guy, Avocado. He's going to join us in hour 2. We got some coronavirus pushback. We've got links in the show notes. On the right-hand side, if you're watching on your computer, a lot of different supporting sponsors and those who are stepping up for health, freedom, and healing liberty here. So it's there, it's up, and we're at them. So what do we do first? I have published an article from John Rappaport earlier today. Let's see, is that in the notes as well?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, add that into the mix because I want people to read that. And it goes into the heart of the pushback, what these governors are doing. And that's kind of what I wanted to address real quick here. Let me see if I can pull that up. Protests against lockdowns. Here they come. This is an article by John Rappaport. We'll talk with John again. We've been doing weekly updates with him on a Sunday broadcast, our first broadcast day of the week. But protests against lockdowns, here they come. And one of his major points is that the governors of the American states are behaving like the governors of the original colonies, taking their orders from a foreign power. In this case, the power is the CDC, the World Health Organization, and by extension, the United Nations, of which the WHO is a branch. But fortunately, it's leading to more and more protests, more and more people getting uncomfortable with this idea. And my gosh, we'll get into some of those protests. And if you aren't already protesting and standing up, you're not paying attention. And I'm going to give you an example of one attention that needs to be paid a lot. One particular governor, Phil Murphy, I think his name is, New Jersey. Right? We got a lot of listeners, viewers in New Jersey. Welcome all of our New Jersey listeners. Sorry about Phil Murphy. I had no say in him being governor. But Tucker Carlson the other night interviewed him and asked him some very pointed questions about the constitutional authority for restricting, religious association. As apparently 15 members of a Jewish congregation and synagogue were arrested? Did that really happen? Of course, this happens after, last year we talked a lot about the Hasidic, the Orthodox Jews being targeted in certain areas around New York City because they're not fully compliant with vaccine mandates. And how, the inevitability of where this is going if you don't stand up. You might not be Jewish, doesn't matter. They're coming for you eventually. The gold star, maybe not on your lapel or your chest, is on your real ID. Which, if you have it, you didn't even know you had it. Look at your ID, see if it's got one of those gold stars on it. You'll recognize where this is headed, where Bill Gates and Fauci are leading us. Mandatory vaccination without exception, without exemption. If you want to leave your house every day, your cell phone will be connected to it if you're not going to do an implant. Or if they vaccinate you with a tattoo, they're going to find a way unless you push back and say, the pain that you will suffer for trying to implement that on me and my family is worse. Is worse than... Well, it's worse for you than it will be for me, in other words. So let's watch Phil Murphy be interviewed, governor of New Jersey, by Tucker Carlson. Stunning level of admission by a governor of a state. A governor of a state. I don't say no more. Just watch.
So you made that decision, and as I noted before, 15 congregants at a synagogue in New Jersey were arrested and charged for being in a synagogue together. Now, the Bill of Rights, as you well know, protects Americans' right, enshrines their right to practice their religion as they see fit and to congregate together, to assemble peacefully. By what authority did you nullify the Bill of Rights in issuing this order? How do you have the power to do that?
That's above my pay grade, Tucker. So I wasn't thinking of the Bill of Rights when we did this. We went to first of all, we looked at the data and the science, and it says people have to stay away from each other. That's the best thing we could do to break the back of the curve of this virus that leads to lower hospitalizations and ultimately fatalities.
And I'm not contesting that, though. I think I do think there's a debate. This is a rolling conversation because we're learning new things every day, and nothing is settled at this point.
Understood.
But I do want, since you are an elected official, a leader in the government, an executive, how do you have the authority to order something that so clearly contravenes the Bill of Rights of the United States, the U.S. Constitution? Where do you get the authority to do that?
That's the chief executive officer, if you will. Like the president of the United States, it's sort of like the president of the state of New Jersey. The chief law enforcement, the executive branch, the governor. Now, many of you know that I kind of take these things from the microcosm to the macrocosm. And I want you to understand something about, remember when Jesse Ventura, he was on our show years ago. He was governor of Minnesota. He did some really cool stuff as an independent. He wasn't on the inside of globalism, so they found a way to get him out fast. But he did something really cool. A few things probably for Minnesota. The key one was working with Diane Miller, National Health Freedom Group, to establish the first safe harbor provision for non-doctors to be able to hang a shingle and help people to get well in the states. Now, a few other states have done so since then. But Jesse said he found out that there was a CIA, I call it operative, representative, embedded in every governor's office around the 50 states. The CIA embedded somebody in every governor's office. Really, where is that in the state constitution that's cool? How did that happen? Well, you begin to understand this when you start looking at who the governors of the states are. And I don't mean by Phil Murphy as an individual. I mean any governor. That they are also elected and become de facto assistant governors to the fund. This is going far afield. You got to begin to reach deep into research to find this stuff out. I'm talking about the fund. What is the fund? The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank, beyond the Federal Reserve, which they're all connected in incestual relationships that are not pro-American. They are globalists and they are bankers. As Jesus threw out the money changers, we would do well to throw out the IMF, the World Bank, the Federal Reserve. And if we can't do it directly, then indirectly in the ways we've talked about, like yesterday with Seco, talking about how do we get hyper-local? How do we grow our own food? How do we establish new ways of interacting without having to rely upon Federal Reserve notes that are rapidly losing whatever perceived value they have with every $2 trillion stimulus that is going to be manifested here. So going back to that the interview, Phil Murphy, by what, constitutional provision or otherwise, did you get to nullify freedom of religion? Great question, Tucker Carlson. He's like, that's above my pay grade. What? That is your pay grade. You're the governor in the state, supposed to represent not the will of the people, but the Constitution as it's written on the state level and interacting, of course, with the federal Constitution as it happens. Above his pay grade. What does that mean? Who's paying him? Right? Where are his marching orders coming from? And like we talked about just briefly, and I want you to read the article from John Rappaport, the governors are getting their marching orders from the United Nations via the World Health Organization. And by the way, the CDC and the WHO, there's not a lot of difference in their behavior. No, there's not. So if and I think that as Trump rightly did, withhold or pulled funding from WHO, until he withholds and pulls funding from CDC, it's not going to change a lot. I'm just going to say that. Because there's an incestual relationship between CDC, WHO, United Nations, etc. And like, love him or hate him, Trump is not a globalist in the same order of previous presidents. How much do they have on him? Compromise? How much have they threatened him? Again, I don't want to go into that right now. But this is a very big issue as we move into the level of protest phase to push back on the government at the state level now. Even with federalism, to say, you know what, you don't, Governor, have the authority to stop us from gathering together and worshiping as we see fit, as they arrested apparently 15 people in a synagogue there. This is incredible. Absolutely incredible. So what authority is he granted by being governor? Is it extra constitutional? Let's check it out.
Well, here's the thing. We know we need to stay away from each other, number one. Number two, we do have broad authority within the state. Really? And number three, we would never do that without coordinating, discussing, and hashing it out with the leaders, the variety of the leaders of the faiths in New Jersey. We are among, if not the most diverse state in America, so we're used to that.
That you talk to every rabbi and priest, but there's a deeper question here, and I'm just going to ask you one last time because I think it's important. I'm sure you've thought about this. You can't just, as the governor of a state, tell people who they can talk to when and where, because the Constitution of the United States, upon which all of this is based, prohibits you from doing that. So you clearly decided that you could do it. Did you consult an attorney about this? Did you? I mean, because this is a legal question as well as a medical one, isn't it?
I don't go to the men's room without consulting an attorney, so I guarantee you we did that. But
and I don't go to an attorney without consulting the men's room. Got to take a big, oh, good Lord. You don't go to the bathroom without, this is the response from a governor of one of the most populous states in the nation, closer to the tri-state area, of course, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, that area. Extra constitutional? Does the Constitution mean anything? If he says, yeah, we've consulted with a broad, what does that mean? The only consultation you should have is with the Constitution. Do you have the authority to just suspend the Bill of Rights? Tucker Carlson's actually asking some great questions there. And I saw Laura Ingraham ask some good questions of Fauci the other night, but to Super Don's skeptical perspective, he always balances it out. What did you say? Opportunism, did you not? Pointed out that we can't just go, oh, now the media is totally on our side there, Super D.
Yeah, well, these talk show hosts, for the most part, especially the right-leaning neocon ones, have a tendency to, be very constitutional when they've got somebody they wanted to criticize, but when their own guy seems to not maybe follow the Constitution so much, then they really don't have a whole lot to say.
Yeah, it's it's true.
It is. Just to be fair.
Yeah. But
by the way, there's a huge protest going on right now in Minnesota.
Minnesota. All right.
Minnesota, hundreds of people have shown up for a Liberate Minnesota rally. Nice.
Well, that's what we need to do because, I hashtagged something about, I don't know, on a Twitter this morning about, what was it? President Trump said, free Michigan or something, release Michigan. I forget the hashtag, but same thing for all of the states that are under any limitation on their ability to move about the cabin based on fear of a virus that has not been actually caught in the act of doing anything. Like saying, have you ever heard that before? And that they can only determine via tests that are not valid for determining quantitatively a cause of any infection, even if there was evidence of presence of it at one time in the past. And of course, the antibody test that they're going to say, well, we'll let you out if you test positive. Oh man. Too late to not get me started, all right? This is the kind of stuff we do here on the Robert Scott Bell Show that they do very few other places, if any, in broadcast media. So, Super Don, thanks for getting it all together today for us to get this out to the world. We have some stories I do want to cover. Let's see, where's the first one? Here it is about the protests. Check this out. Scattered protests push back on U.S. coronavirus stay-at-home orders, and these will be growing by the day. The question is, will they incite martial law responses from governors, or will the governors back down and recognize they don't have the authority under the Constitution unless they just acknowledge that the Constitution has been suspended at the federal level and at the state level, like in Michigan or New Jersey or, name the state where this is going on. And, for those on the political left, I saw they were trying to push back on the governor of South Dakota, who basically said there is no lockdown in South Dakota. We ask our people to use common sense. Oh my gosh, the people can use common sense about interacting with one another? Yeah, imagine that. The ultimate authority with the people, not the government. And the leftists in media, like the Rachel Mad Dogs of the world, go, how dare she's going to be responsible for, and a lot of the gotcha questions to Trump I see from the liberal press, and I'm sorry, I got to say it that way. They left lean. They are authoritarian in their support of shutdowns, lockdowns, elimination of the economy so that everybody is on welfare. What the hell is that? Is that a high human ideal to put everybody on welfare? And how long will that last? Starvation? How many people will die? And they say that. Well, President Trump, aren't you going to make sure that, like, South Dakota pays attention to what the federal government, are you just going to, dude, it's disgusting. And any of you that lean to the left on the political spectrum, you should be disgusted with your fellow lefties on this particular topic. But if you have abandoned the religion of your youth and you've adopted the religion of scientism, which we'll talk with Avocado in hour 2 about, then I guess I get where you're coming from. Can't agree with it, can't go along with it, especially if it violates my right to life, liberty, property, to worship, to assemble, and all the things that, we're not going to comply. And more people are waking up and going, you know what? I'm not waiting until they've rounded us up and injected us all. I'm not the only guy that's been talking about these things. I'm not at all the only guy talking about it now, for sure. But the warning signs were all there, and they were in history. And yet you hear also people like Fauci, when he's interviewed, I think one of the things with Laura Ingraham, oh, well, that's the past. We don't want to look back in the past, Fauci says. It's like, no, you do want to look back in the past, because without knowing what happened in the past, you are doomed to repeat exactly what happened in the past. Is that what Fauci is after? Sure he is. He's gotten very powerful, excuse me, and rich because people won't learn from his own history. He does not like it when you look back into the dawn of HIV and the scams surrounding that he perpetrated or facilitated. So we must learn from the past. No doubt about it. Now, in terms of censorship, we talked about censorship. There's a soft form of censorship that's sort of plausible deniability in terms of it's not the government censoring us, right? Facebook is now notifying users who have shared coronavirus misinformation. Could it do the same for politics? Of course it could. Of course it could. Hoping to stem the torrent of false cures and conspiracy theories about COVID-19. And in this article, they'll reference conspiracy theories like this was a lab-created virus, which, by the way, it is. And now mainstream news is actually reporting on the fact that this was a lab-monkeyed virus. This was not, well, they call it enhanced, or they use certain things so they don't use the term weaponized. But if the attempts were to weaponize it, they failed miserably. But companies like Facebook, Zuckerberg, in support of global vaccine agendas, and Gates and Fauci are coming in going, you know what? You shared this. We've seen the things that pop up under a YouTube video, like this very one we're doing today. If we have COVID reference, it's like, go to the CDC to find out what's really the official story. Of course, you all know official stories are there to protect the officials and their agenda. So why couldn't they do this with politics? They say, well, no, that's not an officially approved political statement. Or you said this about this globalist that's running for president. We don't particularly like that. We're going to call that fake news, and we're going to disallow it and ban it, right? Or ban you from social media. David Avocado Wolfe. Avocado knows this because he basically pulled off of most of, he banned on Facebook, YouTube, all of that. And we'll talk about some of the things he's done in that context. And then we got our friends in Canada. Yo, Canucks, your government, your federal government is open to a new law to fight pandemic misinformation as they're reporting it. So basically, they are enforcing new levels of censorship in violation of whatever freedom of speech you may think you have in Canada. And again, they also mention in this article about fake news of conspiracy theorists about claiming this is a virus that escaped from a lab, which clearly with every passing day, more evidence is exposing that reality, whether it was purposefully done, accidentally done. And here they use cranks are creating havoc. It's like the skepducks have written this article for them. They use terms like cranks. You're a crank. You're not official. You're not, a real doctor. On and on and on it goes. They say it's not a question of freedom of speech. This is a question of people who are actually actively working to spread disinformation. And they'll bring up the Russian troll farm, right? But who gets to determine what is misinformation and disinformation? What you're talking about in Canada and here in the United States, for those through Facebook or other media outlets, are talking about manifesting overtly the Ministry of Information, Orwellian governmental organizations within governmental organizations. The Ministry of Information. If it were as benign as the Ministry of Silly Walks, okay, but it's not. Orwell come to life. Again, a playbook, a guidebook, rather than a science fiction dystopian future novel. Maybe we're a little late in fully implementing all of it, but that's what they're promoting here. Because those of you who are seeing through, maybe for the first time, maybe for years, you've been waiting for everybody to catch up to you, are now considered the biggest threat to what? The biggest threat to what? To a global takeover of all sovereign nations, particularly the United States, because it's the last place, the first and last place on earth. If it goes, where do you run to? What other nation on earth? And I asked this of Canada too. What other nation on earth besides the United States was founded in defense of the individual's liberty, that rested and acknowledged that sovereignty exists with the people first, not a king, a queen, the emperor, a governor, a president. And that government was instituted to protect those rights, not violate them, in fact. And of course, what we see are chronic violations of those rights. How bad is it getting? This apparently is a Navy, I don't know if he's a petty officer or what, but in full uniform. I was just sent this, was protesting in uniform, which is asking for big time trouble. You want to talk about being willing to take the consequences of your actions because you're protesting. They can protest. They have free speech in the military, but not if they're in uniform. And this guy set up a sign, land of the free, and he's standing in the ocean in his uniform, in his dress uniform. And I salute this man, whoever he is. I don't know who he is. He's probably going to be drummed out of the military, maybe a tribunal, whatever was going to happen to him. But if people in the military now are willing to stand in protests like this, what does this tell you about the next phase of this psychological operation? To make you afraid of an invisible virus that evidently escaped or purposefully was released from a lab in Wuhan, in China. China is all over this, but there's elements within our own American government that need to be rooted out. Deep state, Fauci, Gates, WHO, UN, and CDC reference points. So President Trump, if you're watching, if you're listening, you got to realize that this viral pandemic is part of the play to establish global governance, to diminish the freedom of the people in America and other countries, and have them bow down and worship at the pharmaceutical church, basically, which is the state-sanctioned religion in violation of our First Amendment. Fundamental freedoms that you have to assemble, to worship together. And in New Jersey, Phil Murphy says, well, I don't consult. I don't go to the bathroom without consulting attorneys. Yet he saw fit to overturn the First Amendment in New Jersey, just arrest worshipers in a synagogue because you declared it is too dangerous to worship together? On what basis? Nobody's really challenged the claims from a virological perspective that we're not dealing with the next 1918 Spanish influenza, which, by the way, again, look back in history, even though Fauci doesn't want you to, you will begin to learn that there is not one virus that happened back then. In fact, I would argue that the vast majority of people that died even then died of iatrogenocide due to vaccine campaigns, suppressive drugs like aspirin, and any number of horrific toxic poisons that were being spewed on them or in them directly from medicine doctors. Or there were environmental issues to consider, the terrain, coming out of World War I, poverty, starvation, etc. But why was the mortality rate almost nil? among those who were declared sick from what we now look back and call the Spanish influenza of 1918 or so, why did the people who consulted homeopathic doctors, naturopathic doctors, doctors of chiropractic medicine, if you could say that, why did they not die in the same numbers or percentages that they died at the hands of allopathic physicians? And I said this, and I'll say it again, we are not invited to the table, even with President Trump there. Has he invited a homeopath or 2 or 10? A naturopath or 2 or 10? A chiropractor or 2 or 10? A doctor of osteopathic medicine, which is equivalent to an MD today, like Dr. Buttar, who knows better about these things? It's as if there is no form of medicine other than allopathic pharmaceutical medicine. And these articles are proof that the media is completely controlled, under the control of the pharmaceutical church. There is a world religion, there is a state religion in America, and it is not Christianity, it is not Judaism, it's not Islam, it's not Buddhism, it's not Taoism, it is modern medicine. For those of you who know enough about history to know what it was like, some of you from Eastern Europe lived under the Iron Curtain. Russia came into Germany, East Germany, the Iron Curtain, the Eastern Front, all of that. Remember, you could have any color car you want as long as it was black. Devo said freedom of choice. No, freedom from choice is what you want. If you really want that, they're going to be happy to initiate a full-on collectivist communist state because of the fear of the virus. You wouldn't normally give up on freedom, but you're afraid because you have given up on your autonomy, your bodily autonomy. You have given up on your immune system. You have given up on your creator who created you with an immune system that is brilliant and beautiful and vital and strong as long as you don't violate it by poisoning it or keeping from it the things that it needs to function. The vital vitamins, minerals, nutrients, essential fats, all of organic, biologique quality, not toxic GMO garbage. And so we're doing it and have done it to ourselves. This is the manifestation of our either ignorance or arrogance or our unwillingness to stand up for what deep down we know is right and true and accurate. And those things are not necessarily found in modern medicine, quite the opposite. They are abandoned in medicine. They are shouted down in medicine. They call us cranks and quacks and conspiracy theorists because we acknowledge the immutable, unchangeable spiritual principles and laws that unite us, that govern us, that our founders recognized when they talked about nature and nature's God. You are a creation of God, not government, as am I, as are we all. We better start acting as if we actually know that and living as if we actually know that, or else we will continue to be enslaved, even worse than we are experiencing now as the people are beginning to rise up in protest against these unconstitutional, unconscionable, inhuman restrictions on our freedom that comes from God and not government. Got a lot more to do on the Robert Scott Bell Show. Yeah, I know it's intense before we get to the weekend. We'll lighten it up. We'll get silly, I promise. And if I don't, Super Don will. The land of the free. This is it, folks. The Robert Scott Bell Show is on. Great place to establish freedom is by learning more about your body and how to care for it and helping others to do the same. We do that through our friends at Trinity School of Natural Health, trinityschool.org. Check them out. We'll be right back.
Trinity's Certified Natural Health Professional Program serves as the foundation to our more advanced CHHP or Certified Holistic Health Practitioner program. This course will teach you how to apply naturopathic fundamentals to pursue a healthy body, mind, and spirit. From wholesome cooking to shopping to the human body systems, this program prepares you to care for yourself, your family, and your community. In this course, you will learn human anatomy and physiology, as well as the requirements of each body system. the need for proper nutrition and elimination of waste, how to incorporate natural health principles in your own home with tips for shopping, cooking, cleaning, pet care, and first aid, how to conduct client consultations and assessments, and make safe legal recommendations. One of the greatest things about this certification is it's designed for you to put your knowledge into practice right after you complete the course. In a world full of toxins, it's essential to learn how to keep yourself and others healthy. Trinity's CNHP program is the perfect choice for you. If you have any questions or feel this is the program for you, please send us an email or give us a call and get started on your path to transform the world.
Y'all having fun yet? Like, Robert, come on, it's the weekend. Can you lighten up a little bit? Well, helping me do that when I get too intense is my humble and lovable producer, Super Don, who puts coffee in the wrong end. And here he is.
No, it's the right end.
See,
not the rear end.
He's not as you can tell, he's not a yes man. He doesn't like do what I tell him to do or anything like that. He keeps me, you know what? You've gone off the deep end now, Robert, right? I don't think I have. I think, that interview that we played from Tucker Carlson of a governor going, it's above my pay grade.
Yeah, the Bill of Rights, that's above my pay grade.
That's a WTF moment, isn't it?
But wait a minute, aren't you? I mean, just ignore the fact that he's a governor for a moment.
Yeah.
He's a freaking American. I mean, come on, man. What do you mean it's above your pay grade? It shouldn't be above any individual citizen's pay grade.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, you don't just, Bill of Rights, whatever.
Right.
Rights schmites.
Rights schmites, yeah.
Yes.
Listen, don't learn from history. Listen to Fauci. He'll tell you what to do. Gates will tell you what to do. Super Don says we got a troll up there on Periscope. How are you? We've got so many digital outlets and platforms that are listening and watching simultaneously. Not too worried about it. But, the idea that some people will say, oh, the economy, you like the economy more than you like human life. No, you know what? There is going to be such devastation and starvation and suicide if you destroy the economy that will far supersede, if you will, anything this Wuhan escaped bat virus would ever do. Which, by the way, it's doing in who? In what? In people who are immunocompromised with multiple co-infections, comorbidities, etc., who have weakened immune systems due to polypharmacy. And as I've argued, they haven't identified one person who has died directly of coronavirus. And I think that's a shock for people to hear. But I say that in terms of evidentiary proof. It's not just that they got to put it on the death certificate, the cause of death, COVID-19. Well, really, what was it that caused you to say COVID-19 was the thing that did it? Did you see this virus in mass quantities, multiple millions, replicating and overwhelming every system of the body? And I'm not saying, never have said, the virus can't be part of what's going on here. But if you've got someone who's suffering with dementia and Alzheimer's for 3 years in an old age home or a hospice, suddenly dying, and then they say, well, no, it wasn't that had nothing to do with it, or maybe it did, but it's a COVID-19 death, and not acknowledge the conflicts of interest, economic or otherwise, via making it a diagnosis of COVID and the co-pays or the reimbursements through Medicare. I mean, since when does conflict of interest not matter? It does in peer review. Or at least it used to. Pointing out those things, of course, makes you a crank and a conspiracy theorist, Super Don. I better quit while I'm ahead.
Are you a skeptic now? Or a conspiracy theorist?
Yeah, I think you and I both share skepticism, but typically about the official stories.
Thinking, man. Critical thinking, you can be a skeptic or a conspiracy theorist and still possess critical thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just what's missing from the equation most of the time.
Yep. RobertScottBell.com. Links are up in the show notes. Please sign up for email alerts. We're going to be giving away a stress remedy from our friend Dr. Frank King, Dr. King's remedy soon. We've got the AMA Ask Me Anything, third one, going on Monday, the 20th of April. That'll be 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific.
That's this coming Monday. It's already just around the corner.
Yeah, and Super Don, silly enough to throw the gauntlet if we got an X number of Patreon count, which wasn't too unreasonable to ask, but we're supposed to do something like sing Copacabana together.
Well, that came from Ula. Is Ula even here today?
I don't know.
Have I seen her in the chat room?
Oh, she'll join us when she can, I'm sure.
I don't see her here today. She's not here. Anyway, yeah, she was just like, oh, you guys, what Well, what was it she said? I think it was on one of the shows earlier in the week.
Yeah.
She says, everybody stay tuned because RSB and Super D are going to sing Copacabana after the break.
Right.
And we're like, what are you talking about? We didn't agree to do this.
Yeah, I don't recall
and so
that.
it just kind of went on, and people were joking and laughing about it and stuff. So what I said was, over on our Patreon page, that if we got 10 new patrons between that time and the AMA, which is on Monday, that we would go ahead and do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, nobody's going to do that. Whatever.
Yeah.
Well, they've reached the halfway point on this.
Oh, man.
So and by the way, I want to give a shout out to Norman. Norman is our latest Patreon supporter.
Thank you, Norman.
So we're now 5 patrons away from having to sing Copacabana.
Man. Really?
So yeah, I don't know that we'll get there between now and Monday.
Well, that'll be a phew moment if we don't.
We'll see.
Anyway.
We'll see.
Also, Super Don's going to give away more Super Don stash. He's got the gold super concentrate plus CBD oil from hemp. That one you're holding there is like a $70 retail value.
Correct.
One of our Patreon supporters is going to walk away with that during the AMA. Well, not walk away. It'll be shipped to you. So that's kind of cool.
It will.
All right, let's see. We got David Avocado Wolfe. Avocado will be joining us in hour 2. Looking forward to that. He's a totally cool dude. Very smart as well. And we will cover some more of the coronavirus crazies and controversies in a little while. Let's go to a Pentagon study, right? Y'all like official stories? Well, I'm going to give you some official stories from Children's Health Defense here. And it says Pentagon study, flu shot raises risk of coronavirus by 36%, and other supporting studies. This article links up in the show notes at robertscottbell.com, written by RFK Jr., chairman of the Children's Health Defense. He says this: on March 12th of this year, Anderson Cooper and Dr. Sanjay Gupta held a global town hall on corona facts and fears. And during the discussion, Anderson said to the viewing audience, and again, if you are concerned about coronavirus and you haven't gotten a flu shot, you should get a flu shot. Never mind that Anderson Cooper is a CIA asset, right? Mr. Gloria Vanderbilt. That's right. It's not that I'm making it up. It's there. So is it true that if you get a flu shot, it will help you, protect you from COVID-19? Well, turns out in this 2020 Pentagon study, the flu vaccines increase risk of coronavirus 36%. You're 36% more likely to get this so-called coronavirus if you were vaccinated. And I've said this so many times over the years that the flu shot, in addition to just not working in most years, right? When they claim, well, it's X percentage point. We've seen 14%, 12%, 30%, 9%. Like, it's still the best thing you got. But what does it mean to work? What does it mean if they say the flu shot works? It means that they claim they've matched the most common strain of that year, of that virus, and that they've shown that their shot elicits an antibody response to it. Has nothing to do with whether you get the flu or not, as long as they get their holy grail manifested of an antibody. Pardon me for mentioning that in immunology, they recognize fact. It's a fact that you can have an antibody for something and still suffer from it. You cannot have an antibody for something and not suffer from it. That their holy grail is actually not necessary, especially induced artificially, because they discount all of the other nasty ingredients and components. Oh, there you go, conspirizing again. Wait a second. What's in a vaccine? Read the ingredient list. Find out what independent analysis has shown is not on the list that's in there too, and go, really? I don't want to ingest that. Much less inject. And then Anderson Cooper, because he's an expert, tells that brilliant brain surgeon, Sanjay Gupta, who, by the way, over in Afghanistan some years ago, we've been on the air 21 years now, we were reporting on that, says he had the worst flu in his life, right? It was the worst flu ever. What was he doing? Taking Tylenol. Wow. You don't have to be a brain surgeon to be that stupid, but it sure helps. You take acetaminophen, paracetamol, you're going to destroy your body's ability to produce glutathione peroxidase, to detoxify, all the things necessary for function of the immune system and every healthy cellular function in the body. And that's what we're doing. And they're going, yeah, get more corona, get a flu shot, right? And of course, I've argued that influenza may not even be caused by the virus because most people don't have the flu. We found that out in 2010, 2009, thanks to Cheryl Atkinson, who was at that time working with CBS, working on a story about, hey, the CDC, it's interesting. They apparently stopped counting cases of flu that year, which was the big pandemic one that they claimed it was going to be. Was it swine flu? Because they found all the samples that were coming to them from the doctors contained not only no swine flu, but no flu at all. And so they published it on the CBS website, but it never went on their national news broadcast. That's big news. CDC stops counting flu cases. And instead, within 3 weeks, as it was reported, the CDC came out with this pronouncement that 22 million Americans got this devastating swine flu this year without evidence at all. And people that point that out are derided as cranks and quacks and conspiracy theorists. And then now we see Facebook wants to engage all the social networks, and then they'll ban David Avocado Wolfe from all social media, right? And then we'll hear about his story about how that happened and what he's doing and what we all must do to see beyond it and to help one another. And that is to communicate with one another. The very thing that they don't want us to do now because social distancing. You talk about something that strikes at the heart of your humanity, the need for love and affection, to touch, right? To heal one another. And they're saying, well, don't go near people. And that you got Governor Phil Murphy in New Jersey saying, yeah, we arrested 15 people in a synagogue in New Jersey because they weren't supposed to worship. We told them not to, and they did it anyway. And Tucker Carlson gave him some props, asked him, hey, on what authority did you basically nullify the First Amendment? And he's like, he didn't answer. He's like, well, I don't go to the bathroom without consulting attorneys. It's like, dude, what are you thinking in New Jersey putting someone like that in office? But then again, you got Michigan, you got Minnesota, and the people are beginning to rise up. It takes that. It takes a little bit of discomfort before we wake up and go, you know what? I think I'm going to do a little different now. And then, of course, there's this article. You got to check this out. Can you believe the audacity of people? Check this out. They're actually turning to herbal medicine. Yeah. No, there's an article by Associated Propaganda. Some people are turning to herbal medicine for this virus without proof. There's no proof. I'm like, dude, if there was proof for the germ theory, we should all be dead. If it was actually a real thing, that the mere presence of or contact with a pathogen would result in death or disease or whatever. There's no explanation for how we're alive, y'all, based on the germ theory. It's the law of the terrain, y'all. Get with the program. But they're going, there's no proof, right? You're going to wait for proof to find out that the vaccines don't work, that they're likely to just likely kill you as to help you. If they're going to help you, where's the proof of that? Chronic disease, 54% of all young people in America. Oh, ignore that. Who's got a seat at the table in our government, state and federal level? Where are the homeopaths? Where are the naturopaths? Where are the herbalists? Where are the chiropractors? Oh, no. It's only allopathic medical doctors that have forsaken natural medicine for the almighty patent on petrochemicals. Thanks to the Flexner Report of 1910. They don't learn about natural medicine and herbs. They have to go outside of their training to learn about that. So that's another article. And finally, we come to our comment of the day. And Super Don, I want you in on this because this is a good one. I mean, there's some great responses from folks out there. We've been doing this for 21 years, and there are a lot of people that are just discovering this show. Like you toil in obscurity for a long time to become an overnight sensation. That's how it works. They don't see all that other stuff. But since we started this Patreon page, which we never wanted, we didn't think about it. Michael Bolden from the 10th Amendment Center, God bless you, Michael, we love you, said you guys really need to do that. And you guys are coming out of the woodwork to go, yeah, we want to support you directly too. And it leads us to today's comment.
Hey, you guys!
Hey, I tell you what.
Hey, here's an idea.
All right.
Hey, listen up, everybody. Excuse me.
I got something to say.
All right, this one is a to share or not to share, which means we're given permission. Because I asked, if you don't want me to share something, you just say it. All right, Super Don, I'm going to bring it into the notes here. Y'all check it out at robertscottbell.com from Laura. She says, I've been a listener to the RSB show on and off for many years. More now that I'm in my house most of the day. Yeah, a lot of people are discovering us because they have all this time to go, hey, what should I be watching or listening to? I'm tired of all the mainstream media. Cool. Welcome. You're welcome. And you can stick around even after you go back to work. More now that I'm in my house, he says. I am enjoying it so much that I signed on to the chat room. I feel like I have gained dozens of new like-minded friends who look out for each other. On Monday, I signed up to become a Patreon supporter for $4.99 a month with the knowledge that I could access the previous Ask Me Anything and then be able to ask my own questions. She says, wow. After Super Don, can you give me a wow? I don't know how she sounded the wow. That's a wow.
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 Yeah, there you go.
She says, after listening to the first two Ask Me Anythings, because she could sign up and listen later, she did, I felt like a cheapskate. What? She says, if I had a naturopathic doctor, I certainly wouldn't get that info that I've gotten here for $4.99 a month. I'm like, dude, should we raise our rates, Super Don? My general practitioner thinks that silver will turn me blue, and my supplement store, although helpful, it's dependent on who is working at the time and that day. So I only trust RSB with my health info. I'm getting a bargain. It was just a matter of, do I want to share RSB and this info or not? LOL. Listen, I don't ask you to trust me and me alone. That's never been my message. And I always want you to validate and verify anything that I say. And if you're not a quote unquote scientist, doesn't matter. The ultimate arbiter of truth and fact really is your connection to spirit, your connection to the source of all sources, God. And when you can reconnect in that way, you will never be led astray. Whether you have a degree, medical or otherwise, you're going to know what to do. And that's the big message here of empowerment. It isn't me. It's your connection to source. And that's what I encourage you to plug into. But Super D, did you tell Laura that she can up her donation on a monthly? It's up to her. We're not mandating.
I mean, you can, certainly you can. And there are quite a few people who do.
Yeah.
But, it's only $4.99 a month at the basic level. And, I mean, that's going to get you access to the live Q&As that we're doing. And again, we got the one coming up on Monday.
Yeah.
Where if we get 5 more Patreons, Robert and I are stuck with having to sing Copacabana because Ula challenged us to.
Of all the things that you think are important that people really need right now, the challenge is we want you to sing Copacabana together. It's like, I'm partly happy about that because it shows people in the midst of all the fear porn that they're connecting to spirit in humor and finding ways. Let's laugh together as well, because we have to. I mean, it's like it's so sad and frightening and angering and frustrating, and I get that. It's a human emotion. I feel it. I go through it. I mentioned on the weekend I'll end up inadvertently taking out on my wife. I mean, I didn't mean to yell at you, honey. It's not you. I just was all week. I got to let it out. We're married. We can do that. She could yell at me. I could yell at her. It's all good. We love each other. So the fact is that we can laugh together too. And Laura, thank you, by the way, for that message. It's really a sweet and cute message from you about becoming a Patreon supporter of the Robert Scott Bell Show, directly or indirectly by supporting those who support us. And we got a lot of ways you can do that, including reducing your anxiety through CBD and other things. You can see the links there in the show notes. So, Super D, any questions or comments coming through before we take our top of the hour break? I'm really anxious and excited to have Avocado on the show for the first time.
Well, here's a confusing one. This is coming from over on Facebook, and apparently our favorite vaccine scientist, Dr. Peter Hotez,
yes,
was on Fox TV.
Fox News. Hotez. Okay, what does he say?
And according to, and this is coming from Mercedes, and Mercedes, I'll have to verify this because this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But
yeah,
she's saying that Peter Hotez on Fox News just said that he does not think we need a COVID-19 vaccine.
Oh, be still my heart. What? These are pro-vaccine fanatics.
What? That doesn't even make any sense because he's a vaccine guy.
You know what? We might have to ask Avocado about that. He's got a great science background too. So we'll be able to dissect what is going on. Is it just the land of confusion to keep people off kilter so they don't know what reality anymore? Well, like I said, we give you guidance. I don't tell you what to do, but give you options, perspectives that you don't get in many places, maybe anywhere else. And that's why you tune into the Robert Scott Bell Show 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, or any fraction thereof. RobertScottBell.com, Natural News Radio. We're on so many platforms in audio and video mode. Just whatever you like to use, we're happy for you. So,
Charlie over on YouTube says, "Why punish your supporters with singing?"
That's what I want to know.
He says, I know Super D can carry a tune. Robert?
No. I've told, he's right. And I've told you the only, and no one likes this, but the only singing I can do is I can do Neil Diamond songs because I grew up singing his music. So I'm trained that way. That's it. That's the extent. But
did Neil Diamond ever do a cover of Copacabana maybe?
No, but it was a good Jewish boy like Barry Manilow. So there's something connected there. I don't know. I don't know what happened to Streisand. They were in the same high school, but went different ways, I guess. Anyway, look, I want to take an early break here. I know we're almost at the top of the hour. I can't wait. David, Avocado Wolfe. Avocado is going to join us for hour 2. Very excited. We'll talk scientism. We'll talk Corona. We'll talk probably fun and silly things, too, because he's that kind of guy. He'll bubble up the joy that is avocado. So stick around. Lots more healing to go on the Robert Scott Bell Show, robertscottbell.com, where the power to heal is yours.
The Robert Scott Bell Show. The Robert Scott Bell Show.
Have you ever watched a movie with superheroes and villains? If so, you already understand the science of drinking hydrogen-enriched water and how to unlock true health. Allow me to explain. In our bodies, we have a natural struggle between superheroes and villains, with molecular hydrogen being the superhero and oxidative stress the villain. So how does knowing that give you the tools to unlock true health? Your body is naturally designed to fight oxidative stress through specific bacteria in the gut that creates hydrogen on their own. Pretty awesome, right? So why does this matter? Well, in most people, the hydrogen-creating bacteria is gone, and cancer and disease soon follow. So the real question is, why aren't we trying to fix this every day? Well, the answer is simple. It's hard. Even the most healthy of individuals who biohack take months or years to achieve this balance. But how do we get there without taking months or even years? After years of study and development, we discovered and designed the perfect technology that made it all possible. We call this technology Echo H2 Water. Within minutes of drinking hydrogen-rich water from our Echo Hydrogen water machines, you are back in control, balanced, and feeling amazingly hydrated and healthy. Having your own Echo Hydrogen water machine is kinda like having your own team of superheroes on call, always available to fight the villains in your body. Pretty cool, right? But don't just take our word for it. Get your Echo H2 water machine today and quickly bring your body into balance with hydrogen.
The Robert Scott Bell Show.
I listen to get accurate, up-to-date information. I've learned so much from him. It is awesome. It's the best entertainment that I've found.
You rock the health world. Keep it up. I love you.
Now, the voice of health, freedom, and liberty, here's Robert Scott Bell.
All right, we're back. Hour 2 is on, and I'm so excited. We're already chatting behind the scenes. We couldn't wait. Now, this guy I first officially met, of course, known about him for years, David Avocado Wolfe, Avocado, for a lot of years. Smart guy, very innovative. It's a wonderful thing, the things that he's done. We can go through some of that. But I finally got to meet him officially at the Truth About Cancer last year in Anaheim, California. And great presentation. I think he was on the big panel that I moderated and everything. And we talked there and said, I got to get you on the show. We got to connect. And you know how it is. We all get busy. And then suddenly I get a call. Hey, yeah, we're supposed to get together. So we're getting together right now. Avocado, how are you, my friend?
Best ever. Best
Yay.
ever. Very successful morning. I was up since 4 a.m. with a plumbing issue. And we're on a real spring here, which is a lot different than a well. It's a lot different than an artesian well. It's like a legit spring. So we have that boxed in, so to speak, and then a building on top of it. And something was wrong. And the pumps kept running all night long. And I was like, I got to go deal with this. And first guest got it right. And my neighbor was like, I'll go run and get the part. So he did the run over to the hardware store for us, and we got it fixed. So I'm in a good mood right now.
What? Yeah, don't you feel like, I don't know if it's just a guy thing. I'm not meaning to be sexist because girls can feel this way too. But like, you're like, oh, I made fire. You remember that in that movie, Castaway? It's like when you nail it, like you did it, you figured it out. Now, there may be some level of, I talk about intuition, connection to source, but there may be, of course, a lot of years of training, whether it be scholastic official or unofficial, through the experience of working with these things, finding somebody that could guide you, right? A master teacher. You become an apprentice. And I think if more of us would learn that way, we would actually have real knowledge and wisdom, not watered down versions of official stories and science that lead us astray, or to be so afraid of a virus that they say boo and we all go, oh, I'm not coming out.
I barely learned anything in school, and I went through 9 years of upper education, including a master's degree in nutrition, 2 engineering degrees, a degree in political science. I've been through it all. I've been through all of that. Barely learned anything. All my real knowledge has come from real life experience. And when it comes to plumbing, it's 100% real life experience, because I did not have a teacher. I just had to learn it the hard way, and it has been rough. But after 15 years of cosmic plumbing, I feel like I have learned something.
Cosmic plumbing. Now, that's not an actual up in Canada. They got a cosmic plumbing. Call us 24/7. You're talking about the experience of being alive in this universe and getting to learn stuff. And I think that for too long in the West, we've abandoned that kind of learning. We've somehow diminished it in importance and elevated official, what I call degrees. Right? Because we lack common sense often when we isolate ourselves in those institutions of higher indoctrination. And then we can't use the information that we can glean at any moment just by being alive.
It's interesting. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, probably my degree in law, I do have a law degree as well. And it was that gave me some knowledge about how to negotiate contracts. That was probably the best thing I learned in 9 years of upper education. It's just amazing how much time was wasted. I'm looking at it just going, what is going on? Anyway, I was talking to my friend, Dr. Shiva, yesterday, and he's very highly educated, 4 PhDs at MIT. Mm-hmm. And we were just talking about this education usually, and almost everybody destroys free thinking. And I was like, Dr. Shiva, you're like one of those rare people. And I think I'm one of those rare people who actually made it through all that education and still was open-minded.
Right. Yeah, no, it is. It's so rare. And I interviewed Dr. Shiva, I think in January. Fascinating interview. I wanted to get his backstory, what makes him tick. And, for anybody to survive that level of indoctrination, it's impressive to me. That's why I've always rebelled inside of me. I was like, I don't know why I'm rebelling against this. I love science. I've worked on electron microscopes. I've studied at major university. I've done these things. But at the same time, it's when you disconnect from true source. You begin to worship the mind as opposed to allowing it to be a great tool for our use.
Well said. I think also one of the things that guides us, and probably most of your fans listening right now, is they're more heart-centered than mind-centered. And they use the mind as a tool to direct the heart, right? So, like the heart is behind it instead of the other way around. I mean, most of our civilization, from the Bill Gates of the world, it's all mind. There's no heart, right? It's all scientism. There's no heart. There's no compassion, no ethics, no morality whatsoever. But they hide behind that. Like, we're moral with our $98 billion. We're ethical with our Gates Foundation. That's now the second biggest supporter of whoever they are. Who?
The Who. Yeah.
I think I'm going to remember the Who by the band, but that's my position on that.
I would defer to them if I could, right? But now we're dealing with the other Who. Avocado, for those that don't know you, and I don't imagine anybody doesn't know you by now, but I think it would be good to track back a brief history of Avocado, right? Everybody knew you, David, Avocado Wolfe now, and what you have done to get to this point, and the fact also the attacks on you in terms of social media, what you've decided to do in terms of how to reach people with an empowering message. And of course, even some of the stuff we heard you speak about at The Truth about cancer or anything in between. We've got time this hour. We're on for the full hour. We'll go into bonus territory with you as well. So don't feel rushed, but it's a fascinating journey you've been on.
Nice. Thanks. I grew up, both my parents are medical doctors. So I grew up in it from the time I was born. I've been in it when I was 7 years old. I said, no more injecting me with anything. No way. And I remember actually being injured by an injection and something changed in me. And I was like, that's it. No more. So I was never injected with anything since that point, unless it was like ozone or some, stem cell, my own stem cells or something like that. But I've always been afraid of needles after that incident happened when I was 7 years old. So I had an innate distrust of doctors, which started with my parents, just from seeing it so closely early on. In 1977, my uncle moved to San Diego, California from New York, New Jersey. So we were in New York, New Jersey. My uncle was in St. Louis. He moved to San Diego. We followed him to just go check out his lifestyle over there. And that's when I first planted avocado trees right near the border, very close to the border. And in fact, in 1978, a family came across that border and we took them in. They're still there. They're still there. So, growing up with Mexican people, Mexican society, Mexican civilization. I mean, we only got Mexican TV growing up on the border over there in the late 70s. Eventually in 1980, instead of going there for vacations, we moved to San Diego, and I grew up as a Southern California surfer and, that lifestyle. But it eventually led me out of there as I got out into the world. And this week breaks a 26-year travel streak where I've been traveling for 26 straight years. I haven't been in one place for more than 4 weeks in 26 years. That streak is broken this week due to this coronavirus situation.
Wow.
And I'm glad for it.
Yeah. Hey, listen, and I'm trying to relate the positives, as you might know, about this situation. Yeah, I mean, we can always point out the fear and everything else. I'll acknowledge it. But in reality, it's causing people to be uncomfortable enough to look at life a little bit differently, maybe a lot differently, and maybe see some of the things we've been talking about for years about what's wrong with the sciences. For instance, the abandonment of spirit you become a very dangerous entity because you have authority without real connection to the true authority, which is not government, to limit your behavior so you're not destructive. You'd be more constructive and supportive of humanity and advancing it.
They snuck a religion in right underneath our noses, which we call scientism, which is not scientific. It's not based on the scientific method. You have to believe in this. You got to believe in the Big Bang. You got to have all these belief systems. You have to follow all our leaders. There's our Stephen Hawkings and all these people, Bill Gates. You got to believe in all their stuff. And it just became another series of priests, another sacred text. Oh, you don't like peer review? You're going against our sacred text. You're a heathen, right? It's just the same crap. Here's what's above you. Here's what's below you. Here's what happens before you're born. Here's what happens after you're dead. It's a religion. They snuck it right in, but it's an atheistic, immoral, and unethical religion. And that's why it's so dangerous. And we are exposing scientism at every turn, because when it comes right down to the brass tacks of it, the lies are clear. And we see this in the vaccine industry, how they've been lying to us, how they've muddled statistics, how they change things around to make it look like science actually has figured out anything that can improve people's lives, the whole thing. And as you get deeper into it, you realize what improves your life is connection to source. What improves your life is connection to nature. What improves your life is connection to natural technology, like cosmic plumbing this morning. It's what improves your life is happy relationships and loving people and loving other diverse opinions other than your own, and just being able to talk to people and communicate. That's what changes things. This scientism has actually created a dystopian nightmare. And people in this particular instance that we're in right now are becoming aware of it. They're going, whoa, we're headed for dystopia. We better stop this. But we cannot stop it until we identify what the problem actually is, which is the fake religion that's been pushed in right underneath our nose. You got to believe in the theory of evolution. You got to believe that you're a monkey. You got to believe you got to hit each other over the head with sticks. It's just so silly. And it's so obvious what it is. It's designed to create a social Darwinism that causes people to kill each other in an unethical, immoral way, the most unethical and immoral ways.
And you're not exaggerating even a little. And I will say it this way, and I want your perspective on this too. I say one of the most dangerous things that's happening now with the fear of this COVID-19 is the alteration of how we view one another. We are now asked or demanded to view one another as vectors of disease, infection, and death. No longer human or spiritual beings bringing love and creation and imagination and laughter, but we must fear one another. And the inevitable result is that is just what you said, an incitement to violence in defense of, my gosh, you breathed on me. The very act of breathing now becomes a criminal, dangerous, deadly act. How did that happen? Is there a more obvious Luciferian agenda?
It couldn't be more obvious than it is right now. And what I love about what's happening right now is people are starting to realize that they're not going to be saved by any antibiotics, any vaccine, or any scientism solution, that's all been an abysmal failure. The entire healthcare industry is an abysmal failure. What it's doing, actually, it's taking the irresponsible, and these super wealthy trillionaires are grabbing the irresponsible, and they're using their lack of ability to take care of themselves to weaponize against the responsible and those who do take care of themselves. That's what this is about. If you really chunk it down, let me say that again, and just so everyone gets that point. They take the irresponsible and the people who lack the capability of taking care of themselves, and instead of educating them like, hey, here's how you can better care of yourself. Here's the incentives to do so. Here's all the vitamins you could take. Here's all the supplements. Here's the superfoods. Here's the food you could be eating. Here's the organic food. Instead of that, they weaponize that crowd against the responsible and capable people who are able to take care of themselves. And that's why we're looking at a forced vaccination agenda. Why does it have to be forced? Because those who let go of their responsibility are basically subservient to the scientism vaccine system. And then now all the people who are responsible and took care of themselves are quaking in their shoes going, they're coming after us with their injections of chemicals and garbage and fetal aborted cells and all of the other stuff. Which, again, since I was a child, I resisted it. I have said no because my childhood instincts told me no, and I listened. I think you're like me. I think a lot of your listeners are like me. We're stubborn. Like, no way. I'm not taking your chemicals. I'm not taking your garbage. I'll take my herbal medicine. And I've been taking my herbal medicine, and I've managed to stay on the road for 26 years without getting sick, showed up to every event, never missed an event. But meanwhile, you couldn't do that without antibiotics and hospitals and doctors and big pharmaceuticals and all of the plagues that they've brought us, like OxyContin and oxycodone. I don't know what more evidence we need to see that this is a sham and a scam and a major wrong turn for humanity. But I do know that when we come out of this, we're going to be taking some major right turns because evil teaches us about good.
Yeah, well, whatever the evildoers tell us to do the opposite. You're going to be on the right track. And that is embrace one another, love one another, hug, be affectionate, and eat well, clean food, all the things that, if you go back into the ancient religious text, Bible, they talk about cleanliness. What does that mean? Maybe we need to update how it's communicated, but that's always spirit flowing through us to keep it fresh in what's going on today. And I look at this, again, so overtly nefarious scheme to turn us against each other. Yet it's the equal opportunity at that point to do, again, greater things than ever before, because we have had it. Let's be honest. We look back at the history of history. When have we just been able to wake up each and every day, for the most part in the Western world, not even think about whether you're going to live or die that day? For the most part, you just I'm going to get up, I'm going to grab something from the fridge. If I don't have it there, I'll go down to the corner or whatever. I'll get whatever. And it's so out of the ordinary from the history of humanity on this planet that I think we're being brought to a place where we have to be reconnected to how we are even here, this body, this temple that we are given while we are here functions, and then embrace the responsibility of caring for it rather than turning it over to elite, let's say, priestcraft in the church of pharmaceutical mysticism to do it for us, because it's devastating to what they're actually doing.
When you're looking at like vitamin D3, you're looking at 80,000 studies that back the power of vitamin D3 to activate 3,000 genes that are associated with health, just as an example. When you look at the virome, like we have a microbiome of bacteria, the virome, the 390 trillion viruses in our body right now, which is a community, we don't know hardly anything about it. I've been listening to the top authorities in the world, the best that Harvard produces, the best that Yale produces, the best scientists in the world. They know a tiny little fraction about the virome, yet we're going to go to some kind of a God knows what kind of vaccine for COVID-19. I guess that rhymed a little bit there. Right? And we don't know anything about that, but yet that's all you hear from Fauci. That's all you hear from Birx. That's all you hear on media, which is telling you right there how crazy it is. That is a complete, that is so scary that something we don't know anything about is getting all this press. Meanwhile, 80,000 studies on vitamin D3, we don't hear one word about it in mainstream media.
No, and we talk about all the different remedies that are available to us and have been since the beginning of time, much less advancements where science was not divorced from spirit, which great advancements can be made then, including the energetic forms of healing, metabolic medicines like homeopathy, for instance. And we go back into history, which Fauci says, don't look at history, not even his history especially, and ignore the fact that in the early 20th century, whether it be Spanish influenza or other fever diseases, typhoid, typhus, they were met with homeopathy, naturopathic principles, chiropractic principles, and have a very little or limited death or mortality rate, less than 1% in many cases, and allopathic medicine, 30, 50 or more percent death rate. And we go, if we're thinking with the mind, you use your mind, we go, maybe we should open up and invite some of those homeopaths and herbalists and chiropractors to the table to decide what's really going on here and what we can do to remedy it. And it's not lock down and turn man, woman, and child against one another for the act of breathing.
I tell everybody, who's caught up in the scientism in hospitals and doctors, I'm like, look, your oxycodone disaster, your OxyContin disaster was all FDA approved, doctor approved, hospital approved, big pharma approved. What if you want to keep losing, keep going that way. You want to keep losing? Look, I'm a winner and I'm on the winning team. We do things differently over here. You want to keep losing, keep doing that. So that's how I talk about it now. I don't know how you can have worse statistics of survival, worse problems in hospitals than exist right now. And by the way, I grew up in hospitals. I know those problems intimately. Staph infections in hospitals are all kept on the quiet, because they don't want any of that information leaking out to let you really know how dangerous a hospital actually is. A hospital is by far the most dangerous place you can be. In fact, I call them get away with murder hospitals. Mm-hmm. And they can get away with murder in a hospital because it's zoned that way, so that they're not held accountable or liable. So the last thing you want to do is end up in a hospital, because they can get away with murder, and they do every day. And they get away with their Mengele, Frankenstein, you fill in the blank, satanic, Ahrimanic, whatever, Luciferic, unbelievable experimentation that's going on innocent people.
Yeah, if there was a legitimate concern by our medical authorities or governmental or media authorities for death, threat of death, right, disease, infection, or whatever, then they would really be shutting down hospitals and delicensing allopathic doctors. And then you would see people live, by and large, because we'd be open to all the things that actually work without killing, work without harming. Not that again, I'm not a guy that's an abolitionist. I think there's a role of allopathic medicine in society, but it's in a far smaller place than it is today. By far. Other than that, they become the third, second, or first leading cause of death. And of course, that which is approved by our government agencies, captured by pharma, I call it the Fear and Death Administration here in the United States, FDA, third leading cause of death acknowledged in even the peer-reviewed medical literature, but they do contribute to the second and first leading cause of death. So that's why I call modern medicine number one on the death charts.
Well said. Well described. There is something about this, though, that I find just incredible, which is there's a cosmic giggle that weaves its way through our whole reality that you look at it and you go, this is hilarious. This is like Idiocracy was such a great film because they captured the hilarity and the insanity of it all. Mm-hmm. And that's we're in an idiocracy. There's no other way to describe our form of government. It's a kleptocracy, idiocracy. Steal, 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 idiocy, idiocy upon idiocy. And it's just amazing that we get to be in that because part of life really is about humor. It's a good part of our life should be about humor. And this one, people will look back on this time and go, this is the funniest thing of all time. These people were nuts.
It's true.
It's just, it's the best. In a certain way, I'm looking at this like, I don't think I've been more entertained ever in my life than what's been going on during this lockdown.
Well, it's like a Gary Larson cartoon, The Far Side, if you remember Gary, the aliens come down and leave immediately. No signs of intelligent life. I mean, actually, if they looked at the animals, they got it figured out. They're not so concerned about all the things we are. But, we've been granted, I think, the freedom, and I think it's a gift. Some people say it's a curse. Maybe you could say both, of choice, of the freedom to screw up, horribly screw up. But I look at my life, and David, you could see in your own life, the times that we've screwed up the worst have been the most important parts of our lives to get us to where we are today. I indelibly know the things I know because of the things I didn't know before, and the allowance that God gave me to go ahead, screw it up, and then figure it out. And, you're given the freedom not to figure it out, too. Of course, that's where we're seeing a lot of the disastrous scenarios of disease manifestation or adopting the false religion of modern medicine as our guiding principle on the planet. And yet, here we are, an opportunity has arisen due to this excessive fear. They're pushing it so hard that it's waking people up to see the things we've been talking about. It's really good.
It's what we were saying earlier. Evil tells us what's good. It informs us. It's really, really helpful to those who are in a state of confusion. All you have to do is go, oh, evil's doing this. That must mean that good's that. And it's just very helpful. So I find that we're actually, coming out of, I agree with Rudolf Steiner on this one. And Rudolf Steiner was an amazing, hard to describe, philosopher might be the word. And I'm a Rudolf Steiner student and fan. And one of the things he said is that we hit the bottom of the Kali Yuga, kind of the age of the most ignorance, in 1899. And now we're kind of climbing out. And so now we're seeing it. Because back then they didn't see it. Everybody believed in their governments. They believed in this. They believed in that. They believed in this petrochemical medicine, whatever it was. And now all these years later, 121 years later, we go, oh, I see what this stuff is. I see where this is going. And we're climbing out. So the future is looking very bright. It's looking very bright. And it's looking very dismal for these Gateses, Faucis, Birxes, Clintons, Bushes, etc.
And they're bringing it on themselves. The illusion is that they could get away with it in perpetuity. That's not the way the world and the universe works. The illusion is that it works that way, and that's how people do some of the most horrific things because of their perception that there is no consequence to their action. And some of the worst things humans can do, they become very evil in their behavior when they have the pretense that, oh, I can get away with it. Now, the choice to not do that is ours all the time. The question is, what choice do we make? And granted, we have that freedom. I want to welcome all of our new listeners and viewers to the Robert Scott Bell Show, fans of David Wolfe, David Avocado. Avocado's amazing. He's done some amazing things in his lifetime. I'm so grateful that we got him here finally. And we're on the air 2 hours a day, 6 days a week. You can go to robertscottbell.com. The live listen links are there, right, embedded. You can get the archives in many, many places. And you can see the notes each and every day. We cover the news like no place else in broadcast media, and also bring you empowering options for health and healing. I am a homeopath by training, although I was raised much like David Avocado Wolfe in allopathic medicine. My dad was a pharmaceutical rep. My uncle, his brother, was a medical doctor. I was raised pharmaceutically, Avocado, and I didn't wake up at 7 years of age. I have to give you props on that. It took me to like 18 or 19 at university when I realized, man, oh man, they have poisoned me from day one, and I'm not any better. And I want better. And I wanted to be a doctor when I was little. Ever since I could remember, what do you want to do? I want to be a healer. But the only model for healer was doctor, allopathic in the Western world. And when I realized what doctors had done to me, I said, if that's what I'm going to be or do, I will be miserable. I cannot stomach doing what they did to me to anyone else. And so I gave up on that dream. And then 4 or 5 years later, in answer to prayer, I was sent a healer, a homeopath, to teach me not to just heal me, but to help me to heal myself. And in that turn, what? Teach others to do that or even greater things. And so I'm grateful for this opportunity. And in new media, we've reached more people than when I was just on syndicated radio all those years ago, which we still are in our 21st year. So again, it's a parallel journey.
Awesome, man. That's
it's really cool.
21 years.
Yeah.
That adds up. How's your mom doing, by the way? I think your mom was at Truth About Cancer, if I recall.
Yeah,
she was sweet.
She's great. She's 86. Those of longtime listeners know her, Grandma Mickey. She wrote a book, if you want to know about her life from Israel to America, A Life of Many Colors, her journey. It's an amazing journey. And she's on 0 drugs. And before the Corona nonsense, she was going out dancing twice a week. That's the thing she's most mad about. It's like, I can't go out and dance. Come on. I'm like, Mom, you're going to have to turn on some music and dance in your home right now until they get over this crazy stuff. But she went out and she got the activated charcoal you talked about, because she was with us at Truth About Cancer. And she's very excited that you're on today as well.
Oh, fantastic. Tell her I said hello. And we should get into activated charcoal and that breakthrough, because some years ago doing all those longevity conferences, I think we did 16 and 17th coming up in October, if all goes well. If we can get back to normal, we'll see. But I learned something in all of that was fascinating to me, just trying to get into the literature on like what has extended the life of animals better than anything else. There has to be something in all of the literature. That something is activated charcoal.
Okay.
That something is activated charcoal.
Hold that thought. This is the cliffhanger. We're going to go into that. I've been wanting to talk to you about that since your presentation was so dynamic. I was catching it from backstage at that time with all the things that were going on at TTAC. So we'll get some more insight from you. Any links up. We'll talk about how people can learn more about you for those that I can't imagine they don't know you, but there are some all the time. New people are coming on board with what's happening right now. And once again, if you go to the show notes at robertscottbell.com, we've got links to Avocado as well, and videos that he's done talking about this crazy claim of a pandemic due to a virus. We've got on the right-hand side of the page many supportive sponsors, different things you can learn about, including our friends at Synergy Science, who have now access to key technologies that can protect us from harmful EMF. And we'll talk about that as well. Stick around. We got lots more healing to go. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Today, we live in an omnipresent cloud of charged particles emitted by electronic devices, electromagnetic fields, WLAN, and radio waves. These particles penetrate our bodies and heat the water in our body tissues. Recent scientific studies have shown that this particle flux not only heats the cells in our bodies as if we were in a microwave oven, but damages them as well. At Key Technologies, we want to protect you from the negative effects of such particles, so we have developed the Key Home Cell and other products. The Key Home Cell creates a protective field that works like a filter, intercepting any dangerous particles before they can enter your body. Here we have a partial look at the inner workings of the Key Home Cell. The Key Home Cell generates a charge exchange between the water tubes, thereby discharging free electrons and releasing them into the room. Within 24 hours, the Key Home Cell creates a torus field. The free electrons formed in the torus use their negative charge to bind to the positively charged harmful particles, thereby rendering them harmless to you. The torus field has an effective range of 16.4 feet above and below, and 24.6 feet around the device. The torus field created by the Key Home Cell is transmitted and provides you with protection through the walls of your home. Not only humans and animals are shielded from harmful radiation, but plants and food too. Whether mobile radio waves or WLAN, any particles that come within the torus field can no longer cause any harm to you or your family. The Key Home Cell provides you with all-around protection, allowing you to communicate with absolute peace of mind when using your cell phone or any other electronic devices. The Key Home Cell's free electrons are transmitted into the water through the torus field and repairing the water structure that was destroyed by radiation particles. Water regains its ideal vibrating hexagonal grid structure. The difference is easy to taste and can be proven with laboratory testing. This type of perfect hexagonal water structure is found in fresh spring and healing water and has also been seen in snowflakes. The same effect happens with our food, which also contains water. The Key Home Cell greatly reduces radiation exposure from cell phones, laptops, WLAN transmitters, mobile terminals, and other sources of radiation. The Key Home Cell drastically reduces the thermal stress on your body tissue. It is very fast and very easy. With the Key Home Cell, you will experience a new quality of well-being within your home and more life energy without any unhealthy exposure to radiation. What
an exciting day here on the Robert Scott Bell Show, heading into the weekend. And What a great way to head into the weekend with Avocado. And he's on board for the first time. Let me check in with Super Don as well, my humble and lovable producer, Super D. And you got, man, the chat room's active. A lot of questions, a lot of comments, and there's special requests for Avocado to do things. We'll see if we have time to do.
Ula hasn't asked for him to sing Copacabana, though.
Oh,
that request hasn't come up yet. But.
There is that.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll do American Bandstand by Barrett. We call him Barely Man Enough, but
hey, come on now.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I love that song, American Bandstand. I'm a drummer, so
yeah, he did a great job with that. Absolutely.
True. Look at that. He's got his drumsticks going on there.
Bandstand. Bandstand.
Maybe we can have him play drums if we have to sing the Copacabana for Monday's Ask Me Anything. We'll see if we get that.
Barely man enough? Is that what you said?
That's what he said.
The other one I've heard is Fairy Cantaloupe. That was the other one that I've heard. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, with Neil Diamond, he was just called the Jewish Elvis. So I don't know. There's all of that. But all right, well, let's get back to the charcoal discussion because it was a great presentation. My mom was so excited. She went out and got some immediately from you. And maybe you can relate to the folks that aren't so sure about what that is, why it's utilized. Why did you identify it as something so critical that so many people apparently have missed or not looked at?
Okay, so in my opinion, having studied Taoism and the great yogis and their longevity for about 30 years, I think this was the one piece of the puzzle that we weren't getting. The Russian gerontologist Frolkis had extended the life of animals by 21 to 47% consistently with activated charcoal over a period of decades. And he basically proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that activated charcoal is the number one life extension substance in existence, meaning that, like, let's say we all did, dark red wine and we got all our resveratrol and we're having the best day ever. We, based on the research, could only extend our lifespan by about 7%. To extend lifespan beyond 18%, which is the extreme of olive oil. Olive oil is the number one longevity substance in the food world that we can identify and go, that can extend lifespan between 9 and 18%, which has consistently been recorded in scientific literature. But if we're going to go to activated charcoal, we're looking at 21 to 47% increase in lifespan. Let me tell you what that means. Let's say a human's supposed to get 100 years of life, which is reasonable, right? If we had no pollution, no stress, we'd probably get 100 years. People still get 100 years. Your mom's going to get 100 years. And, if you get 100 years and you extend your lifespan by 21%, that's 121 years. Mm-hmm. That's significant.
Hey,
and I think this is the key that the yogis were onto.
I want to ask you this question because I heard you say it, and I want to make sure that people didn't not hear, how do I say double negative, that they hear this. That when you talk about charcoal, I don't want anybody to think, oh, well, Avocado just said, I don't even have to worry about eating well. I don't have to worry about selenium and other. No, this is based on, okay, we've got the basics down. We're doing right. We're supplementing what we need to. Then you add this into the mix, right? Because I don't think people often hear just the magic charcoal and that's all I need to do.
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, I'm, a fanatic for quality and quality of life. I mean, how many vacations have we been on? We ate the wrong thing. We had a stomach ache and it lasted, or the indigestion, or, got even worse and went, I don't want to say, particular things that have happened, but you know what I'm talking about. And charcoal stops it just like that. It's over right there. You get a stomach bug, take 5, 6, 7, 8 charcoal capsules, done. It's over. That's the end of it. Your vacation's back on track. So it is a very powerful antidote, but in addition to a healthy diet, it's insane. It's insane what it is and what it means. And it's so deep. And this has become such a big part of my life that out there, right outside my house right now, I've got 2 massive sacks of charcoal for this farm right here that are going to go into the earth. Pallets, 2 pallets of charcoal. I can't even lift one up. It's too heavy. It's like 300 pounds. 2 of them. Because that's the power of understanding what charcoal has done to the inside of my body over the last 5 years and what it's done to my farms over the last 5 years. Because I got the connection like, oh, wait, our intestines are like the surface of the earth. That's where the exchange happens with nutrients. And we know that the best soil left in the world is in the Amazon, the Tierra Preta de los Indios, the black earth of the native peoples of the Amazon is still fertile today based on the charcoal that they had developed in that soil for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that only one civilization has left the soil better than they found it, and it's the Amazonian civilizations and societies. So I was like, oh, I could do that. Let's do it. So we are charcoal all the way inside and out. For example, in my spring, and I think this is what caused my valve to fail, I just dumped in 2 buckets of charcoal into that spring, swirled it around, got the entire, because it cleans everything out. It sucks up every toxic particle, but it's not a sponge. It adsorbs.
Mm-hmm.
It does not absorb. So people say, what about my healthy nutrients? There's no evidence that charcoal interferes with vitamin C. There's no evidence that charcoal interferes with vitamin D. There's no evidence that charcoal interferes with B vitamins, calcium, magnesium, protein, carbohydrates, oils, fats, none of it.
So
but if you have toxic stuff in your body, it will draw to the charcoal and be eliminated. It's the best detoxifier and binder we've got.
So should we all go back?
Not the only one.
Yeah, should we all go out back and take our wooden fence or our picnic table and just burn it into charcoal and start eating it, right? So ask that question.
The way that stuff is pressure treated and bromine treated and painted and then sealed off with sealants away from water, I would say no. I would say that's probably not the best idea ever. What I would do is go to a very hard material, like in this ecosystem here would be birch or willow or some of the medicinal mushrooms, which by the way, I have some of those here I should show you, that we make charcoal out of, or that's an activated coconut charcoal, which is an easy to access material that's very common and heavily used in research literature. So that's a good one as well. And by the way, that one's in a tapioca capsule, very, very special capsule, so it's better. It's a vegan capsule. It's better than V-caps, which is starch. This is tapioca, so there's no starch.
Yeah, well said. So, and that is the question people will ask. Again, what should I avoid any form of charcoal, right? And I'm not going to get charcoal briquettes at the health foods, if they sell at the health foods or at major retail. Oh, there's a nice mushroom.
Yeah, I will, to make my own charcoal here, oftentimes I will get my wood-burning stove going really hot, then burn the wood way down, usually birch, and then throw a bunch of medicinal mushrooms in there and clamp it shut so the oxygen can't get in, and charcoal it, because that's how you charcoal it. Mm-hmm. Basically, you bake it. I mean, that's what you're really doing. To charcoal something, you're baking it, and you're trying to stop the oxygen from interacting with it. And this makes an epic edible charcoal, by the way. It's my favorite, actually, these medicinal mushrooms or bracket mushrooms that come from trees.
Is that something you make available for folks that, like go to your website or whatever to get? Or is that that's a special blend?
Yeah, that's a special blend. If you come to my house or come to one of my events, sometimes I have those kind of things. But normally what I do is I go to the world market on an activated charcoal, this right here. We do it in a non-starch capsule with the tapioca, and then we are very, very intense that there's not a single contaminant in there. I just had to reject under heavy pressure an entire batch of activated charcoal because it had 1 part per million of lead in it, and I had to reject it because any other company would have said, because the demand is insane right now. I mean, I'm losing, God knows, thousands of dollars a day probably, but I just can't. Sorry, it's got lead in it. Gone. No way. So I had to reject it. It's been a rough one, but that's the kind of stickler for quality that I've always been.
Yeah, so we got questions coming in. How often does Avocado use the charcoal? It sounds like it's kind of a constant thing with you, but I mean, is there a regimen?
It's a constant thing. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so this is the thing that I want to put out there. What Frolk has discovered is it's really not the amount, it's the consistency. So if you do, let's say, one capsule can absorb 100 times at least its own weight in toxins. One capsule. So in the morning when you drink your water, let's say you have a little lemon water. I put a little sea salt with my lemon water. I'll put a capsule or 2 or 3 and then boom, down that. And that might last me the rest of the day. If I ever eat out, I always take some activated charcoal just because you never know, something in there might not have been organic or there's glyphosate or God knows what could have gotten in there. So in that case, I always have 1, 2, 3 capsules of charcoal with my dinner in that circumstance. I don't eat out much, but if I do, that's what I do. Right.
Well, again, strategically, we got to find a way to live in this world. I've been pretty much all organic since about 1991. I never looked back. People thought, oh, that won't last. I'm like, no. I appreciate feeling good considering how horrible I felt for the first, 24 years of my life before I learned about how important clean is, to everything as far as living cleanly. That means we recognize we don't have control over certain things like the air or the water. Although, another side benefit, if we can talk about the scare of the COVID-19 scenario, is that you look up in the sky, other than if there's still a geoengineering above you, man, there's some clarity coming back to the atmosphere. The lack of so there is an immediate response in terms of the healing within nature. It is so rapid that it has the opportunity. And much like our friend Bruce Lipton talks about getting the cells out of fight or flight, then immediately they can move into growth and healing. And we're seeing that happen on a pretty big scale here, kind of as an accidental benefit.
I've been loving the healthy clouds that I normally only see in South America. I have to tell you honestly, I mean, when you're in like Peru and the highlands way out, and Salcantay or one of these glaciers up there, it's healthy. You see, look into the clouds, you're like, oh my God, it's a healthy, puffy cloud. It's amazing. You come up here and everything looks sick. But lately, it's all been looking healthy.
Yeah.
It's epic.
I noticed that, actually only a week into this when it all shut down. But I mean, every day, I've been looking up at the sky, deeper blues than I ever remember seeing in terms of my lifetime, because we've been living in the era of burn everything you can, not the charcoal to eat, but you know what I'm saying? And that alters the atmosphere. We know that. Now, I've never been an advocate for shutting down the entire global economy because it will cause starvation and suicide and all the anger and angst because people have had it one way and they're not prepared to take care of themselves. Now, this is, I think, again, the warning sign, the wake-up call is like, we get out of this. It's like, please do not go back to the way you lived before in certain ways, right? That dependence upon instant on-demand delivery of stuff like food that magically appears in the grocery store. If you have any ability to do so, whether it's a windowsill little thing or you have a plot, start growing your own food now. And that's been a message here for many years, so that we reduce our dependence on that system before we have no other choice.
I've been talking to greenhouse operations here in Canada. That's where I'm at right now. I could have been in Hawaii, but I got stuck here with everything was just right behind us as I was in Western Canada, and it was just right behind us. We just kept going east, and now I'm near Toronto, which is where I've been for 15 years on this place, but I also have my place in Hawaii. But interestingly, on that point is that the greenhouse people that I'm talking to, they're like, we've never seen demand like this. We can't handle it. We're being overwhelmed right now. People are saying, just ship it. Because normally they customize it for you, and they're like, we don't care. We can't wait a week for you to customize it. Just ship the whole thing. We'll customize it ourselves. That's the talk that's going on. Very positive. So I definitely see mostly what's going to come out of this for most Americans is going to be a positive. I know it's going to be a hard time. I know there's everybody's going through what's going to happen tomorrow. Are we going to have a job? All that stuff. But mostly, as you were saying earlier, the best things that happen to us or the worst things that happened are actually the best. Remember, you were hinting on that. It's so important. It's true. The worst thing that happened in my life, for sure, the worst things that have happened always were the best things for me. No question about it.
Well, and there's an experiential factor. There's a point where we'll resist that for much of our young life. We'll fight against those bad things because we don't realize the wisdom in what you just said. And then I now look back. Again, this is why people that say, don't look at history, they're the very dangerous people that are saying that. I look back at my own history and I say, how many times did I complain while I was going through some hardship and it turned out to be the greatest gift? And I didn't know it at the time. And it's like, and now if there's a hardship going on, why would I think, no, this is the time God's going to abandon us. Spirit's not going to, deliver, and I say, what I've realized is that everything in life is happening for us, not to us. And it changes if you can get closer and closer to that time frame reality that you see it in the midst of it when you can't see it normally. Then you begin to find gratitude in the worst places and the worst things. And it's an amazing shift that your whole body goes through. Your whole fight or flight just dissolves and you're like embracing even the worst things just because you know that they're the greatest gifts. I'll acknowledge it's not the easiest thing to do. And I'm not judging anybody who doesn't, I'm just saying that's been my experience. And I try to come back to that memory every time I'm hitting a point where I'm like, oh, why? And we're just embrace that love that's trying to eke its way through by burning off the things you no longer need.
You remind me of something that, many, many years of my life I spent studying success technology. I was reared into it. I met Tony Robbins in 1984 at a summer camp. That's how hardcore I've been into this all my life. All those years of going, I used to go to the library, the public library, and get everything by Wayne Dyer, everything by Earl Nightingale, everything by Napoleon Hill, everything I could find, Les Brown. you name it. Everything by Mark Victor Hansen, everything by Brian Tracy. I was just way into that stuff. From all of that, eventually I discerned something really valuable, and it's this. Anything that we believe that does not empower us is by definition false. That's a deep one. Take a good listen to that. Anything that we believe that does not empower us is by definition false. So if you have a belief, for example, let's say we go into the scientism, atheistic belief that once we die, we're totally obliterated. Does that make you feel good? It doesn't feel good. It's not in alignment with truth. It's out of alignment with truth. Sorry, it doesn't make you feel good. It's out of alignment with truth. Let's say it's another story where you get to go before your creator and get to do it all over again. And this time do it better. Does that feel good? That feels pretty good to me. I like that. So you see what I'm saying? From that positioning, you can reevaluate all the things in your life and get to a place where you realize that it's not sometimes we're so literal, I guess materialistic in the sense of like, this is our only life. This is all we got. This is the end. You're able to step away from that with that inner, it's almost like an inner, it's a philosophy that you live by that like, hey, this belief is not making me feel better. I better get rid of that belief.
It's not working for me anymore, right? And, I recognize we got, zillions of people on the planet, however you want to define and we've got individual paths that we're on for a very specific reason. I think it happens, as I say, for us, for our benefit spiritually. And we may interpret the things you're saying, Avocado, that I say, people hear it differently. I do not hear you telling people what to do. I do not tell people what to do, but I am inspired by your sharing of your experience, the wisdom that comes from that experience. And I glean information and I go, just like you said, let it percolate over you. How does that feel? How does that make you feel? Right. And there may be resistance to certain things that I say, that you say, but to me, rather than running from it necessarily, unless it's an imminent danger, clearly, there is something that you are responding and reacting to. And there's and find out what is that? What is that? Why am I feeling that way? And there's so much we can learn because our bodies are the great teachers, interestingly enough. It's like, the body doesn't lie. Our cells don't lie. Our minds, well, they lie to us all the time. But it's like when we decide to go allopathically, or we're born into allopathic medicine like I was, you were, they dictate a response to symptoms, the equivalent of, shut up! You don't know nothing, and the drug, of course, not only shuts up the symptoms, the communication tool, but it also creates other symptoms that you don't like, and one after another. You're getting further removed from the voice of spirit working through our bodies, working through our microbiome, our virome, as you mentioned, all of the methods of communication that spirit uses, which is all of it. And rather than squashing it, to learn to listen, to learn the language, just like learning a new language, learn the language of your body, which I had to do. I had no idea it was trying to tell me stuff. Don't eat that. Don't think that, and those are the things that made indelibly me who I am in terms of what I say, how I speak, how I live today. Not because I necessarily read it in a book, which I've read a lot of books, Steiner included, but did it resonate? Can I use it? Is it pragmatic? Is it practical? Does it work? And for somebody it might, for somebody it might not. And that's the point of the experience. We have been granted this great opportunity to chart a course, to co-create, in that sense, rather than allowing what we call the Luciferians to co-create our lives for us, which we have the freedom to give them that freedom to do it. I'm just not a big fan of that.
Right. We're saying, no, we'll take responsibility ourselves. Thank you very much. It's kind of like what's happened. It's a small sampling of like what's happened with social media, what these Luciferians are really doing, which is in social media, we thought we were getting it all for free, but they stole all our data. They monitored us. They weaponized the whole thing against us. How interesting. So as soon as we go, oh, I'm getting it for free, right? I learned from Jim Rohn. He said, you're not getting nothing for free. Anything worth having is worth working for. And I was like, uh-oh, I better get my act together. I'm like 23 years old, right, when that's all happening. And I started realizing anything worth having is worth working for. You're not getting nothing for free. There is no free. You have to work for things in your life, and it's good to work for things, and it's your duty, and it's your responsibility. And there's something you gain from that, which is called fulfillment. It can't be, and it can't be taken away from you. That's another gorgeous thing about it.
Yeah, again, this is a struggle that becomes a political divide too, because what you're talking about is not a political statement. It really isn't. I dare say a spiritual statement, but then I hear people being offended. Well, it's not my spirituality. It's like, you know what? Y'all chill out and feel the vibration of the words and let it, as I said, percolate over you through you and then decide rather than reacting because of programming, external programming coming from those that want to disempower you, right? Take away your power of co-creation and then just be a reactionary. And this is why people are so willing to divide themselves and start looking at one another as vectors of, as we talk about, you breathed on me. Oh, you're a criminal. We gotta put a stop to this. And that's not our own thought. That is orchestrated from external forces to us that are limiting us and co-creating a reality that a lot of people would say, I don't like that, but they're not recognizing that they're participating in its co-creation by giving up their own powers of co-creation. Does that make sense? Am I confusing myself?
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And so this is the thing I think that really unifies all of us into the right pathway, which is creating. When you are co-creating, you are out of the influence of addiction. You're out of materialism. You're out of escapism. Mm-hmm. You're out of, I've got to be better than somebody, because you're in that moment of creation. It's like, to me, where I get that moment of creation, it's my meditation is music. Mm. So, when I'm studying my favorite musicians and when I'm practicing my instrument, I'm humbled. I'm so humbled. It's insane every day, devastatingly humbled. I'm like, oh God, I'm hardly getting anywhere. I've been playing this instrument for 30 years. What's going on? But then it brings you into that place of creativity, which is, that Steiner called creativity the cosmic Christ. Mm. It really is. If you really are like, what's going to solve our civilization's angst? Creating solves it.
Yeah, beautifully said. Listen, we're out of time for our friends at UK Health Radio. They need to drop and carry on. We're going to. That's almost like a Yoda-ism, but we're going to keep going. David Avocado Wolfe, Avocado's with us, and he's going to stick around for some bonus time. Super Don's monitoring the feed, so if we have questions or comments that we haven't gotten to, be patient. We're going to do our level best to get to them. And if you want to learn how to support the Robert Scott Bell Show, there are a lot of great banners to support. We'll also ask Avocado how to get those of you who want to get the charcoal that he makes available that has no lead in it, right? And also the AMA, the Ask Me Anything that Super Don and I, our third one. If you're a patron supporter, we appreciate you. Even at whatever little bit you can, we are grateful because we are not taking big pharma money. So with that, we're going to take a break. Avocado, thank you for being here. And we're going to be back with you in just a few minutes. Remember, it's the God's honest truth. The power to heal is yours.
The Robert Scott Bell Show. The Robert Scott Bell Show.
Check out a sweet offer that my friends at Better Way Health give. This is an immune-boosting supplement that you can't get anywhere else.
Beta-glucan activates and enhances your immune response to invaders.
These things are brilliant for modulating the immune system.
Someone has a need for help in supporting their immune system, I'm looking at the glucan part.
It's amazing, and there's been an enormous amount of research done on this.
It's the most studied immunomodulator on Earth, with over 14,000 published studies referencing beta-glucan, and it's currently being tested in roughly 100 clinical trials.
If you like your dietary supplements with validated science, there's nothing that has more behind it than the beta-1 3D glucan from Better Way Health.
Probably the most heavily researched substances that I'm aware of that modulates the immune system.
It rebuilds your immune system.
Consistency and quality are everything.
Here, you want to see my supplement drawer? Here it is. Get ready.
I was putting together my research and I tripped on this supplement called beta-glucan.
There it is. It's very small. I take beta-glucans, immune booster.
You don't have to worry that you're overstimulating the immune system. We have been just amazed.
I take like 2 a day from Better Way Health.
It's been tested against about 36 other immune boosting products and found to be superior.
If you have an immune system or you want one, beta-1 3D glucan, that transfer point is very unique. It's going to get the results that you're looking for. I support it and I use it.
Better Way Health, I got to tell you, you can spend more time, you can spend more money, but you cannot get better service than you're going to get from those guys down there. They are truly 24 karat.
The brand you want to get is called Transfer Point Beta-1 3D Glucan, and you can get it from betterwayhealth.com. Let's spread the message about beta-glucans. It's a powerful substance from nature that can help you.
Totally cool, totally awesome experience today, and it's still going. Super Don, it's been great having Avocado with us on the air, and we're going to talk with him more in just a moment. Super D, are there any announcements we haven't made, forgot? Because it's been I've been like immersed in the interactivity. I'm loving it.
Yeah, no, just like I said, be sure to tune in for our Patreon supporters. We'll be doing the live Q&A, and we'll talk about it again on Monday as well. On Monday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure you're signed up for the newsletter because we'll be sending out the details on how to get a hold of the stress control formula from Dr. Frank King in the newsletter, which I'll try and send out this weekend. And I think that's it.
Okay. Well, we'll bring Avocado back into the mix. Can you put your hand over your camera? Because sometimes it pixelates and then it'll reset when you do that.
Okay, sure. You want me to do that on my side?
Yeah, no, you can let it go. Let's see what happens. It should reset.
Okay.
It'll find you. There you are. Okay, cool. And, we talk about, obviously, I don't sell anything personally. And I made a conscious decision some years ago. It certainly didn't help me economically, but I was not wanting to ever compromise my ability to speak freely about that which I know to be true, factual, even validated in science or especially. And yet if I sold certain things, then I suddenly couldn't talk about them. You know, the FDA, FTC, we talk about that. There's not freedom of speech when you get into commercial stuff. But there are still stuff I want people to try and get. And so we've got ways to do that. You have the charcoal. You have other things I want you to talk about. But I like to give special stuff for those that are loyal to this show, right? We give discount codes. So
cool, thanks.
That's my setup for this next phase because people are wanting to know how they get the charcoal, anything else that you recommend that they might want to try to get a special thing, because they're here with us on the Robert Scott Bell Show.
Okay, great. Well, on my site, my store is just a little, it's off of davidwolfe.com, DAVIDWOLFE.com. And if you click just shop at the top of that, or you just go to shop.davidwolfe.com, it's there. You can always use RSB 2020 on checkout, and that'll get a discount to all your people. But you have to click apply. When you type it in, sometimes if you don't click apply, it doesn't apply, and you'll be like, wait, what happened? You have to go back a step and make sure you click apply. It's just a Shopify glitch.
Okay.
I wish they would fix it, but it's just the way they do it.
All right. As I'm hearing this, I want to
site.
bring Super Don back into this mix. So if you heard Avocado, RSB 2020. So if you link through to davidwolfe.com or shop.davidwolfe.com, there's a discount code that's available for Robert Scott Bell Show listeners, RSB 2020. And as he said, make sure you hit apply because that happens not just on your site. There are a lot of folks that'll happen. Just be sure that integrates by the time you do checkout. So add that into the notes if you haven't already, Super D.
Will do.
All right. Oh, thanks, Ava. That's awesome. That's great. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I just set that up for you guys. That was cool. And then so I do want to say about the activated charcoal, I had to reject that last batch. Now I probably have a message from the guy. I work with a guy I've been working with for 20 years on this project. That's how, because over the years, you know how it is. People scam you. People will say one thing, do another. And I only now, because I've been at this for 26 years, I only now work with people I really know and trust. So I'm going to see if he got back to me on a time when we're going to get this thing in. Nope, he didn't get back to me. So that means it's probably going to be the end of next week. So in the meantime, what I've been really working on is the coated silver, which I want to grab one of those. We haven't gotten into
Also, you
coated
mentioned
silver
something
yet.
I'm even more intrigued by. Is the carbon 60? People have been saying,
Oh,
"What is this
yeah.
carbon 60 stuff that people are talking about?" Can you dive into that? Because
Yes,
silver
okay,
is something we talk about all the time. So give me that. Yeah, what is this?
This is my personal favorite product. Actually, it's funny that you just said that because I was just pulling out my bag here and I just pulled it into my hand. It was right there.
Cool.
This is the super concentrate. I've been at this for 5 years with the world's best labs in the carbon 60 world, and I mean all over the world. And this is the best product I've seen yet. You can see how dark it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost black. Most of the products you can see through them. Like, for example, if I get this is a Russian C60 product right there. That comes, you can see the Russian writing on that one.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a fun one that I'm experimenting with. I order stuff from labs all over the world.
Down the hatch.
Carbon 60, down the hatch. Carbon 60 is the world leader in longevity of any single substance, even more than activated charcoal. Now, it is a fraction of activated charcoal. All activated charcoal will contain some carbon 60, and that may be what is the most useful in inducing the longevity equation and actually activating 3 genes associated with autophagy, which is, self-eating, the breakdown of necrotic tissue and damaged tissue. Anyway, so the C60 has been concentrated in this kind of a form, but I've found from, years of doing this product that I do it with the activated charcoal. It's kind of like one needs the other, or I would say activated charcoal is more the base product,
Mm-hmm.
and the C60 sits on top of that because the C60 is kind of top heavy, if you know what I'm saying. It's like an herbal extract. At some point you go, you know what, I think I want the actual herb instead of just the extract because it's more whole.
Right.
So
well,
I want to say that about this carbon 60.
I get that concept
together.
again. By the way, put your hand on the camera real quick again. It just pixelated.
Okay.
It kind of gives a cool 60s vibe to it, which is awesome too, but that's cool. But it's kind of like, talk about fulvic and humic acid as a baseline for facilitating so many things. And then I still recommend people take 100% whole food selenium supplementation because it's so robbed from the soil. It's one of those key minerals to counteract so much. So I kind of get that analogy, if you will, from a activated charcoal scenario in this carbon 60. But what do you talk about if you get into the science of the chemistry, if you will, of carbon 60? Why is it called carbon 60?
Okay, so it's called carbon 60 because it's actually the shape of a soccer ball and precisely the shape of a football or soccer ball. It's 20 hexagons and 12 pentagons. And the reason why a football is shaped like that is because if you stitch those shapes together and you kick it, it will not break. Mm-hmm. And that's why the carbon 60 endures in nature. So, for example, let's say a tree gets hit by lightning over here on the cliff near my house. That it's not just normal charcoal there. The high electrical arc causes a change in the structure of the charcoal. We've all seen charcoal before. It's layered. You look at it and it's like, oh, it's in layers. But the carbon 60 is actually spherical. And when you have high electricity, you have a different type of charcoal that's generated, more carbon 60. Now, carbon 60 will always be the dominant of the spherical charcoals. And then carbon 70 will be the next one, which, by the way, is the same shape as a rugby ball, interestingly, or more like an American football. Mm-hmm. And then the rest, the other, say that'll be 60% carbon 60, maybe 30% carbon 70, and the other 10% will be all the other ones that are not straight but curved charcoal molecules would probably be the best way to describe them. So out of those, the carbon 60 has been the most heavily researched. Okay. And that's the one that I prefer because it has the most research behind it. And I've been using it for 5 years. And you can tell if you take this product right here and you put it on your teeth, which I love to do. It's something else, man. It really, and you just know, in terms of the quality of, this is the super concentrate. I've been on this product for 5 years, all these different, C60s. The super concentrate, in my opinion, this product right here, and the guy who makes this for me, it's the best in the world. And I've been through all the labs, even military labs, by the way.
So if people are,
I don't want to say where, but
yeah, if people are somewhat economically challenged and might not be able to pound it in that frequency or concentration, do they put it in water or juice and drink it during the day? What's your recommended way to utilize it?
I just put it. just the way I did it right there, just put it on my teeth, put it in my mouth, it absorbs instantly into you. And that's one of the big differences about carbon 60 versus regular charcoal. With regular charcoal, 99% of it doesn't actually get into the depths of your tissue, into your organs. Carbon 60 penetrates all the way into all tissues.
Okay.
Now, the original research in 2012 that was published out of Paris, France, was a toxicology study on C60, and they were trying to kill rats using carbon 60, like how much is going to take to kill these rats, and they actually ended up doubling their lifespan, which is the biggest longevity study in the history of research on animals.
It's what we call side benefits instead of side effects. That's how we do it. All right, so we have a link, and I think Super Don probably linked this up at shop.davidwolfe.com. Wolf Carbon Detox C60 Super Concentrate. It's there. If you enter the code,
and then I have the traditional one too, which looks like that.
Okay, I see it there, and that's different. Yeah, different pricing. But if you enter the code RSB 2020, I guess you get a special offer there, and a special thanks from us. That's great. Super Don, is there a question that just popped into the chat room for Avocado?
Let's see here. Judy is asking, what is your number one go-to fruit for treatment of cancer?
Ooh, what a great question. What a question.
And there's a second part on that, but that's the first part.
Okay.
Ooh, that's a really good question. I would say if you're in the tropics, number one would be guanabana or soursop. That would be my number one pick in the tropics. Or noni. Noni for sure would be in there. Noni or guanabana or soursop, or combining them together. If you're up here, I would go to things like aronia or blackberries. It would be a blackberry of some sort. Now, not all blackberries are like the ones that we're used to, the Northern California all the way up into British Columbia. You have the Armenian or Russian blackberry. But there are many blackberries like aronia, which we grew out right on the front here. They're actually like spherical and really nice. And they're not too seedy, because sometimes with blackberries, they get a little bit seedy. Yeah. But I would recommend a blackberry of some sort. Black, I just want to reference this because I haven't talked about this. When you're dealing with carbon 60 or activated charcoal, one of the key distinguishing characteristics is that they are black. Now, black foods have long been known in Taoism and in yogic theories, over 5,000 years actually, as being longevity-inducing substances. So when you go to black fruits that have low sugar, you're looking at something that has usually anywhere from 6 to 30 times the antioxidants of other fruits and other berries.
Very good. I see the part two of her question was related to apricot seeds. How do you know if they're quality form? I mean, is there those that are pulling in the concept of Laetrile B17?
Great question. So what you want to look for is a flavor component. Laetrile actually has a flavor. It's an amaretto flavor. You detect it a lot of times in almonds. You be eating almonds and you go, oh, that tastes like an amaretto. But a real apricot kernel should actually be almost all amaretto in flavor. And generally what I recommend is that people make a chocolate drink using an amaretto type of flavor profile, which I outline in my books. It's too much to get into right now. But that's really a fun way to actually create like a hot chocolate that has very strong cancer-fighting effects without using any sugar, in that formula. And that's something that we do at retreats or when we can get more involved, because you're looking at like 6, 7, 8 ingredients in that thing.
Beautiful. Super Don, I see another question that dropped in a lot earlier from the Brookalinos. Do you see that one about avocado seeds?
Brookalinos, can avocado clear up the question about eating or not eating avocado seeds? I hate throwing them out but every time I am ready to start roasting and eating, I read a negative. So I guess this is about eating or not eating avocado seeds.
Great question. To me, avocado pits are more of a survival food. If we were caught in a situation like World War II level, everyone's starving to death, definitely I would eat it. It'd be a great food source. For most of us, it's not an ideal food source because unless you're growing the types of avocados I grow in Hawaii, which have big pits that are really nutty and actually taste good, most of them don't taste that good, and it has a weird texture, especially a lot of these Hass avocados that are mostly in the stores. The seed of a Hass avocado is not an ideal pick, but if you have one of these big Guatemalan, almost globe-shaped avocados, and the pit it's nutty, and you'd be amazed. It's good. that case, yes, for sure.
Okay.
So that's my answer.
Very good. Very good. Now, my question to you, Avocado, will it be 10 years till your next appearance here on the Robert Scott Bell Show? I mean, this has been like pulling teeth with you to get you to say anything.
No, I have been, you just popped into my head and I was like, wait a second, I need to call him because I told him I was going to do the show and I needed to just reach out and just touch base with you after Truth About Cancer. And it was 6 months later. So I apologize for that. But I do listen to that little voice that pops in sometimes and says, hey, get your butt in gear and call this person. So hopefully it won't be 10 years, but it could be 6 months. I don't know.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm glad we're connected. It was really so great to finally connect with you at TTAC. And it's all a matter of timing. The right time always kind of flows through. And we get the messages. So, I'm with you. It's been great having you on. I'd keep going, but I've got to connect with our buddy John Rappaport at the bottom of the hour to talk about the things that no other media guy is talking about. So
his stuff is excellent.
Yeah.
I mean, his stuff is amazing, and I just so appreciate free media, and when I use that term, I'm using meaning that freedom of speech media. It's so important that we keep the voice of freedom alive. It's everything.
Yeah, and so I appreciate him for so many years. He's become a good friend, and we do our now weekly visits, especially because of the corona fear. We need to counteract it with information. They're not getting out many places and asking the right questions. So my last question to you, Avocado, is there any message that if you left today and didn't get to say, you'd be going, damn it, that RSB guy, man, I don't know.
Well, my message that I always like to leave with is today is the best day ever. It's all we got. So whether we're in quarantine or lockdown or can't get out to, our favorite activities, we can find a way to have fun. We can find a way to the best day ever. So ask yourself that question. How do I make today the best day ever? What do I have to do? How do I have to act? How do I have to move my face and my body to make today the best day ever? And very soon thereafter, you will be having the best day ever.
Beautifully said. And y'all, best day ever includes the code now RSB 2020 over at davidwolf.com when you want to shop for the Carbon 60 or any other things. And when next you get back on, we'll talk about some other things. But principally, we are aligned. I just thoroughly enjoyed being able to chat and share these empowering messages.
It was wonderful. Thank you so much, and thanks to your producer over there. And you guys are crushing it. Great work.
Yeah, but I appreciate, man. Just send out the word that there's another media outlet that folks that follow you would enjoy. And like I said, I've had a lot of your folks on board going, dude, yeah, they're talking about the same thing. I'm like, yeah, there are a lot of us out here, but sometimes we're obscure until there's the light. So there we are. So thanks, Avo. I so much appreciate you. It's great to connect this way.
It's been absolutely lovely. Give my best to your family and to your gorgeous mother, and we'll be in touch.
All right. I'm never going to hear the end of it from my mom. Did you hear what Avocado said about me? I'm gorgeous. Yes, you are, Mom. You are gorgeous. Love you. That's great. All right, Super D, any last announcements before break? Because I've got at bottom of the hour, I got to connect with John Rappaport. But Avo was great. Well, Avocado was great.
That's great show, and everybody in the chat room and everybody watching seemed to really enjoy it, and we'll definitely get him on again as soon as we're able to. So have a great weekend, guys, and we'll see you again on Monday. Again, live Q&A, ask me anything on Monday afternoon, evening, depending on where you are. And until then, just stay safe, stay sane.
And laugh a little bit or a lot.
Laugh
fun.
A lot.
Have some silly fun. Dance something, and then we'll get you back with Rappaport's on our Sunday broadcast.
By the way, Ula would throw something at me here. Apparently, there's a free screening of Secret Ingredients going on.
Oh, okay. When?
I don't know.
All right.
Maybe right now, maybe this weekend, but I guess you probably find out if you went to where?
SecretIngredientsMovie.com.
There you go.
Check it out. We need to get Jeffrey Smith back on. He's been a slacker. I hadn't heard from him in too long.
We will do that.
Great show today, y'all. Thank you for being here this week. Been a great week of broadcast. We'll continue on. Keep sending us suggestions for new folks to interview. It takes a while to sometimes make the link up, but we're going to keep doing it because it's moving the empowerment message forward in a very practical, pragmatic way, especially in light of all the fear that's waking people up. Again, that's the irony of what's going on here. So thanks. Dance a little bit on the way out, and we'll be back Sunday with a new broadcast through GCN, or Home and Broadcast Radio Syndication, and then back on Monday. Who knows what at this point. We'll keep cranking it up because the power to heal is yours.